Hey there, Mr. Redder here. Welcome back to another episode of r/EntitledPeople Stories. Today, we're diving into some Reddit podcast stories with Karen. Karen demands I stop filming my son's birthday party. My son just turned 8, and we threw his birthday party at one of those indoor mini golf and arcade places. It was a simple get-together with his friends from school, a few parents, and some close family. He was beyond excited. He'd been talking about this party for weeks. I just wanted to capture the day for him. The laughs, the goofy shots, the little wins. I wanted to bottle all of it. Not for social media or anything like that, but just for us. I'm not one of those people who lives through their phones, but this was my son's birthday. I had my phone out here and there, filming clips while he played, laughed with his friends, or chased the ball across the turf. I stayed to the side, respectful of everyone else's space. I wasn't in anyone's way, not pointing my camera at strangers. I was just being a proud dad, quietly capturing some good memories. Around halfway through, while my son was lining up his shot and laughing with his friends, a woman walked up to me. I'd never seen her before, and she didn't look like she was with our group. Her expression was sharp, like she was already angry before she even opened her mouth. She said, "You can't be recording in here. It's against the rules." I looked up, a little thrown off, and said, "It's my son's birthday. I'm just filming our group." She didn't back off. "Well, I don't want to be recorded. It makes me uncomfortable." I told her, as politely as I could, "I wasn't filming you. I don't even know who you are. Maybe just steer clear of our group if you're worried about being on camera." She stared at me like I'd personally insulted her, muttered something under her breath, and stormed off. I figured that was the end of it, but of course, it wasn't. About 5 minutes later, she came back with one of the staff members, a younger guy who looked like he really didn't want to be involved. He said, "Excuse me, sorry to interrupt, but could you please be mindful about filming? Some guests are concerned about privacy." I told him, "I totally get that, but I'm only filming my son. We're here for his birthday. I don't even know who that lady is. I've only been recording our group." He nodded, kind of awkwardly, like he knew she was overreacting, but still had to say something. I reassured him that I wasn't doing anything inappropriate, and he seemed satisfied. But she wasn't done. She kept talking, loud enough for people nearby to hear. She started going on about how it's dangerous to have strangers recording in public places, and how I could be anyone. She said something about safety and how you never know with people these days. I just stood there trying to stay calm while my son's party was happening around me. And right then, I saw it. My kid had just gotten a hole-in-one. He was jumping up and down with his friends, laughing and looking around for me. It was one of those golden moments you want to keep forever. But I missed recording it, all because I was stuck in this ridiculous confrontation. That was it for me. I was done trying to reason with someone who clearly just wanted attention. I pulled my phone out, turned it toward her, and hit record. My voice was calm, but loud enough for everyone to hear. "All right, since you're going to accuse me of filming you, I might as well actually do it. Everyone, this woman has been harassing me while I'm just trying to record my son's birthday. I haven't done anything wrong. She's not part of our group, and she keeps following me around and making a scene." She froze. Her face went pale. She glanced around and realized people were watching now. A couple of the other parents turned to look. One of the arcade attendants had stopped what they were doing. The woman let out this dramatic little huff, turned on her heel, and walked quickly back to her own group without saying another word. She didn't come near us again for the rest of the party. I put my phone away, checked on my son, and got back to actually enjoying the day. I caught some more footage, nothing fancy, just moments. Him laughing with cake on his face, racing through the arcade with his cousins, hugging me at the end of the day, saying it was the best birthday ever. I don't like making scenes, I really don't. But sometimes, when someone keeps pushing and refuses to back off, the only thing you can do is give them exactly what they're asking for. She wanted to make a scene, so she got one. And once she had all the attention she clearly didn't expect, she backed down. Some people just can't stand not being in control of a situation. But once you stand your ground, they usually don't know what to do next. That day wasn't about her. It was about my kid, and no one was going to ruin that for either of us. She got what she deserved. Sometimes embarrassing people really is the only thing that works. You try to be respectful, you try to de-escalate. but some people just thrive on pushing boundaries until you put them in check publicly. I had something similar happen at Thanksgiving last year. I had recently lost my job, and my uncle wouldn't stop making snide little comments like, "Must be nice sleeping in every day," or "Bet you're loving that free time, huh?" I let it slide a few times, but after the third jab, I just looked at him and said, "Well, I'd rather be unemployed than be as mean and bitter as you are." The room went dead silent. He didn't say another word for the rest of the night. It felt like a weight lifted off my chest. Sometimes people need to be publicly reminded that their behavior isn't okay. Hey Karen, have you ever noticed how the people who feel like they need to control others are often the most miserable? Right? They act like the world owes them obedience, and when they don't get it, they spiral. Good on OP for not letting her ruin the day. Some people will never be happy, but that doesn't mean they get to steal your happiness from you. I call it the Grinch effect, when someone is so miserable that they want others to feel that way too. Am I the jerk for telling my brother he was a jerk for throwing out his fiancé's collection? So I, 25 female, have a brother who's 23. He's been with his fiancée, who's 26 female, for 6 years now. Let's call her Rita to maintain anonymity. They've been together since college, and honestly, she's one of the best people I know. Over the years, Rita and I got close in our own right. She's more like a sister to me than my brother's girlfriend. Rita has this big collection of stuffed animals she's been building since she was a kid. Some were gifts, some she bought for herself, but each one has a story behind it. They were plush bears from her childhood, a tiny fox her late grandfather gave her, and even a worn-out bunny with one ear that she refused to throw away. It wasn't hoarding. She kept them clean, organized, and displayed them like memories frozen in time. When her birthday came around earlier this year, I gave her 2 stuffed animals that I picked out for myself. One was a pale yellow cat with a ribbon, and the other was a chubby white seal. She unwrapped them, grinned from ear to ear, and hugged them like a child. I could tell she loved them. My brother, on the other hand, had this expression that I brushed off at the time, like he had bitten into something sour. I figured I imagined it. Their wedding was scheduled for November, and they were in the process of moving into a new apartment. I offered to help since I had free time. My boyfriend tagged along too, mostly to do the heavy lifting. The plan was to move smaller boxes first, then furniture later in the week. Rita was so organized about it, labeling every box and making sure her things were carefully packed. As we were sorting through her stuff, she noticed something odd. A box that used to sit in the corner of her wardrobe was missing. It was where she kept her oldest plush toys, the ones too worn out to display but too precious to let go of. She didn't make a big deal out of it at first. She thought maybe it had been misplaced in the shuffle. We were tired that day, so she decided to ask my brother about it later. That night, after my boyfriend and I got home, my phone rang. It was Rita, and she was crying. The kind of crying that makes your stomach tighten before you even know what's wrong. She said she had asked my brother where the box went, and he told her, completely casually, that he had thrown it out. He said it was just old junk, and that she was too old for stuffed toys anyway. That was it. No apology, no regret. Just a smug tone like he had done her a favor. She was heartbroken. Those toys were pieces of her childhood, and some were impossible to replace. She tried to explain that to him, but he doubled down and told her that she should thank him for helping her move on and grow up. By the time she called me, she was already packing a bag. I told her to come over right away. She showed up at my apartment with red eyes and a duffel bag, and she's been staying in my guest room ever since. My boyfriend and I tried to comfort her, but she barely spoke that first night. The next morning, my brother showed up at my door. He looked irritated, not sorry. He said he had texted Rita that morning trying to make things right, but apparently that apology was him telling her again that what he did was doing her a favor. She replied by officially breaking things off. When I told him I wasn't surprised, he snapped. He said I was supposed to support him, that I should talk to her and convince her to come back. But I told him straight up that what he did was cruel and selfish. You don't throw away someone's memories and then act like you did them a favor. He called me dramatic, said he didn't mean harm, that he just doesn't get why women get so attached to useless stuff. That comment set me off. This wasn't about clutter or aesthetics, it was about respect. I reminded him how when I was a teenager, He used to make fun of me for liking K-pop. He'd say it gave him the ick, and even tore down my posters once because they looked stupid. I thought he'd grown up since then, but apparently not. He stormed off saying I was brainwashing Rita against him and that she had come around eventually. But it's been days. She hasn't called him. She's still grieving what he threw away, not just the toys, but the years she thought he understood her. Now my boyfriend says I might have overreacted by calling my brother a jerk to his face. He thinks I should have stayed neutral and let them handle it privately. But I can't stay quiet when someone I love does something that heartless and expects me to pretend that it's fine. So maybe I did overstep. Maybe I could have worded it better. But watching Rita cry over those toys, knowing my brother saw them as junk, made me realize something. Some people don't just lack empathy, they take pride in it. And that's something I can't stay neutral about. I'm helping you grow up, says the man-child who can't even look at other people's things without getting emotional. Your brother is the jerk here. This was a power move because he thinks something that brings his fiancée joy is stupid. He doesn't respect her or her possessions, not the jerk. Ask him why he thinks it's fine to suck the joy out of someone's life, and why anyone would want to marry a person who does that. Take his grown-up logic and ask if he'd call his own childhood memories childish junk too. Your brother's behavior is a huge red flag. He didn't just throw away toys, he showed how little he respects other people's boundaries, and your boyfriend defending him? That's worth paying attention to. Update. Before anything else, I just want to say thank you for your amazing comments and thoughtful DMs after my last post. Reading how many people stood up for Rita, and even for me, gave me a lot of perspective. A lot has happened since then, and to be honest, I don't even know where to start. Let's begin with Rita. She and my brother are officially done. The wedding's off. When she first told him she was serious about ending it, he didn't take her seriously. He begged, tried to talk her into forgiving him, and even threw out a half-hearted apology. But every time he made it worse by following it up with something like, "You're overreacting," or "It wasn't that deep." She didn't fall for it this time. She packed up what was left of her things, moved the rest of her boxes from his place, and told him to lose her number. Right now, she's living with me. My boyfriend and I had a spare room, so it just made sense. When she first moved in, she barely spoke. At night, she just stared at the wall, holding one of the new plushies I gave her for her birthday. But over the next few days, she started coming back to life again. She'd laugh at random things, scroll through her phone, talk about work, and even make breakfast. It's been slow, but I can see her healing bit by bit. My mom found out about everything, and that turned into a whole other storm. She loved Rita like her own daughter, so she was furious when she heard what my brother did. I expected her to be disappointed, but not this mad. She called him up and said, "You should have talked to her before pulling that stunt. You don't just throw away someone's memories." My dad was quiet at first, but later told me that he was ashamed too. For the first time, everyone in our family was on Rita's side. It didn't matter that my brother was blood. What he did was just plain disrespectful. He didn't take it well. He accused us all of abandoning him and acting like he had just committed some huge crime. He said throwing away some old junk wasn't reason enough to end an engagement. Then he blocked all of us. That's where things stand with him now. Radio silence. There's also something I need to clarify because a few people pointed it out last time. I made a typo about how long they'd been together. They'd known each other for 6 years, but dated for 4. So yes, he was 19 when they started and she was 22. Now about me. After reading some of the comments, a few people mentioned that my boyfriend telling me I overreacted was a red flag. At first, I brushed it off, but the more I thought about it, the more I realized how uncomfortable it made me. So I sat down and asked him directly why he thought I'd overreacted when my brother was clearly in the wrong. His answer made everything worse. He said my brother's mistake wasn't a big deal, that maybe Rita should have been more mature about it, and that I shouldn't have made it a bigger issue than it was. He said if my brother had simply asked first, it would have been fine to throw out the toys. Then he added something that made my stomach twist. He said he also didn't like my own collection, my K-pop albums and memorabilia that I've kept since I was a teenager. He said I should improve my taste and think about letting them go. I laughed at first, thinking he was joking, but he wasn't. He said the music was weird, that grown women shouldn't cling to things like that, and that I should move on. So I asked him what made his hobby any better. He spends hours on his gaming console every week. He told me dead serious, "That's different. Gaming is a hobby. It's socially acceptable." That told me everything I needed to know. I asked one last time if he thought what my brother did was wrong, just to be sure. He said he understood my brother's point of view, even though he admitted it was maybe a bit harsh. That was it. No empathy, no reflection. I felt disgusted. I realized I was dating a milder version of my brother, someone who thought that his way was automatically the right way and everyone else was childish for caring about the things that made them happy. So I ended it. He tried to talk me out of it, saying I was being emotional. Then he started calling and texting repeatedly after I blocked him. I haven't answered once. I'm done explaining to grown men why respect and kindness shouldn't be up for debate. We had only been together for a year. Now it's just me and Rita. We've become roommates, and honestly, it's been kind of healing for both of us. She had already booked her honeymoon, a fully paid trip to Europe. Flights, hotels, everything. She didn't want to cancel it, but also didn't want to go alone. So now, I'm going with her. We laughed about it the other night while making tea, saying maybe we'll make matching travel shirts that say, "Upgraded from fiancé and girlfriend to free women." She deserves this break. Honestly, so do I. We'll both probably come back with lighter hearts and a better sense of what we want from the people we let into our lives. I've learned that love isn't just about chemistry or time spent. It's about shared respect, about finding someone who never makes you feel foolish for caring about the small things that bring you joy. And if that means holding on to a few childish things, then so be it. Because at least those things never pretended to love you before throwing you away. So thanks again, everyone, for giving reassuring replies and advice on my brother, Rita, and now my ex-boyfriend. I have a doll and fairy collection. Does my significant other think it's a little weird? Yeah, sure. But instead of judging me, he built me a custom shelf with lighting so I could display them. That's what love looks like. You don't have to get someone's hobby to respect it. You just make space for it because it matters to them. My husband sings Korean songs because I got into K-pop during lockdown. Every now and then he'll joke that he's tired of hearing the same tune, but he never tries to stop my joy or make me feel silly for liking it. That's what partners do. They don't have to share every interest. They just have to understand that something harmless can still mean a lot. When I was a kid, my mom made me throw away my Pokemon toys because she said I was too old for them. My grandma secretly kept a few and gave them back years later, and I cried harder than I expected. That's when I realized those things weren't just toys, they were memories. My husband now collects wrestling figures, and I collect water bottles with designs that I like. We might not get each other's collections, but we still make space for them, and that's how it should be. Reddit boy, I just want you to know that if you ever throw out my plushies... Let me guess, you'll throw me out next? No, I'll replace you with a bigger, softer one that doesn't talk back. Oh, I walked right into that one. My boyfriend deleted my late brother from my Instagram friends. 6 years ago, my twin brother Sam passed in an accident. It was one of the worst pile-ups our state had ever seen. The only small comfort we ever got was that the police said he probably passed instantly, before he even knew what had happened. I still replay that line in my head when I need to remind myself that he didn't suffer. Before he passed, Sam was huge on social media. He loved sharing bits of his life, his music, his jokes, everything. He taught English to students as a side job and used to post short videos where he acted out dialogues to help people learn. His energy was so warm, so alive. After he passed, his Instagram became my lifeline. I'd scroll through his pictures, watch those short clips of him explaining phrases or laughing mid-sentence. It made me feel like he was still talking to me. For a long time, I did it every night. Eventually, I cut it down to once a week. It wasn't about living in the past. It was about not feeling so alone. When I started dating my boyfriend 2 years ago, he didn't really get it. He never met Sam and just thought I should move on. I tried to explain, but he said things like, "You'll never heal if you keep holding on." I get that he meant well at first. I even made an effort to stop checking the account so often. Then, a few nights ago, I went to look at Sam's page and I couldn't find it anywhere. It wasn't showing up in my search or in my following list. I panicked. My first thought was that Instagram had deleted it. I called my sister to ask if she could see it, and she could. That's when my boyfriend told me he had blocked Sam's account on my profile. He said he thought it would help me move on, that I needed to stop clinging to the past. I was stunned. I figured I could just unblock Sam, but I couldn't. His account is private, and our family never got access to it after he passed. I started crying, and he told me that I was being dramatic. When I asked why he'd even think he had the right to do that, he said something that still makes me feel sick. That he thought I was too attached to my brother. He hinted that I was in love with him. I wanted to vomit. I didn't even know how to respond. I just stared at him. My twin brother. We were born 2 minutes apart. We grew up sharing everything. Our room, our hobbies, even our friend group. We were roommates when he passed. He was literally the other half of my life. To hear something so disgusting from the man I trusted most, it broke something in me. He tried to play it off later as a joke, said I was overreacting, that he didn't mean it that way. The next morning, he even tried tickling me, saying he was trying to make me smile. I just pulled away. I wasn't angry anymore. I was hurt on a level I didn't think was possible. He didn't seem to get it. He keeps telling me I should forgive him, that it wasn't a big deal. But it is a big deal. He went through my phone without permission, deleted something sacred to me, then accused me of something unthinkable. And to make it worse, he did it when I was in the shower. He knew my passcode because there's an app on my phone to unlock the gate to our apartment complex. I never thought twice about it because he had never gone through my phone before. I talked to my sister again later that day. She told me I could log into her account if I wanted to look at Sam's page. She barely uses Instagram, so she said I could go on anytime. That helped a little, but even so, this wasn't just a mistake. It was a decision he made behind my back, and I can't forgive that. I keep asking myself what kind of person would feel jealous of someone who isn't even alive anymore. My mutual friends think I'm being too emotional. They keep saying I should forgive and forget, but I don't see how. It's not about the accounts anymore. It's about trust and respect, and I don't have either left for him. Your boyfriend just decided for you that blocking your late brother's account was the magical solution to your grief? That's not how it works. Grief isn't a switch you can just flip, especially when it's someone as close as your twin. You finding comfort in watching those videos is totally normal, and nobody gets to take that away from you. But then he takes it even further, accusing you of being in love with him? What? That's not just out of line. That's a whole different zip code of messed up. Grief is one thing, but him jumping to those accusations? Yeah, no. You've been taking steps at your own pace, and that's how it should be. He doesn't get to dictate how you handle your loss. Honestly, it's not about forgive and forget. It's about respect, and he clearly bulldozed that boundary. You're feeling like you're grieving again because, in a way, you are. He took away your way of connecting with your brother. Also, your friend saying, just let it go? That's a hard pass. You deserve better than someone who not only doesn't get your grief, but makes it worse. Yeah, if someone did that to me, they'd be kicking rocks all the way home. Never let someone control your phone, your accounts, or anything personal like that. There's no reason they need access, no matter what excuse they give. Your boyfriend is a controlling tool who needs to go in the bin with the rest of the useless tools. Update: I kicked him out. It's been 4 days since I posted. I decided to end things. I told him I needed space, but what I really needed was distance. Permanent distance. That same day, I changed my locks, removed his access to the apartment app, and packed up the few things he'd left at my place. He didn't take it well. He texted me a few hours later through a mutual friend saying I was being ridiculous and that I just needed a few days to calm down. Apparently, he thought this was all something I'd just get over. That's when I realized he'd never understand the depth of what he did. He still thinks I'm overreacting. He's told everyone that I blew it out of proportion and that he was just trying to help me move on. But that's not what this was. This wasn't love or concern. This was control. He didn't like something he didn't understand, so he decided to remove it from my life. I also decided to cut ties with our mutual friends. Most of them were his anyway, and too many of them tried to justify his behavior. One of them actually said, "He just made a mistake." Another told me I was too attached to the past. I'm done surrounding myself with people who think compassion is a weakness. The one bright spot through all of this has been my sister. She's been incredible. We're starting to talk more, reminiscing about Sam in ways we hadn't in years. I didn't realize how much I'd shut myself off after his passing, This whole situation forced me to open up again, not to my boyfriend, but to the people who actually love me. And something amazing happened. With help from a few kind strangers online, we managed to contact Instagram and prove I was Sam's next of kin. They verified it and transferred control of his account to me. I can now log in as the account owner. All of his photos, videos, and messages, they're safe. I can't describe the peace that brought me. It felt like reclaiming a part of him that someone else tried to take away. I haven't spoken to my ex since that last message he sent. I don't plan to. He showed me exactly who he is. Now, when I go through Sam's page, I don't feel that stabbing ache anymore. I feel calm. I still miss him every day, but the weight on my chest is lighter. I know he'd want me to keep living, surrounded by love, not control. And for the first time in a long time, I feel like I'm doing just that. Absolutely heartbreaking to read. I'm glad you kicked him out. Grieving someone you love is not something you need permission to do, and it's definitely not something you fix by letting some jealous fool take away your memories. Please keep leaning on your sister. You deserve peace, not punishment. Screen record the videos you like the best and keep them somewhere safe, just in case anything happens to the account in the future. You deserve to have that comfort without anyone else interfering again. He'll come crawling back acting sweet, but don't do it. Guys like that only care about control. I'm proud of you for standing up for yourself. Your brother would be too. Imagine being jealous of your girlfriend's late twin brother. That's not love, that's lunacy. Right? If blocking her brother's page was his idea of helping, I'd hate to see what he does for self-care. Probably deletes his own conscience. At least she dumped him and got her brother's account back. That's the real win here. Exactly. Peace restored, fool deleted. Coworker complained I didn't have more free clothes for her. I work at a community mental health center that focuses on substance abuse recovery. It's one of those jobs where the people are good-hearted but exhausted. The coffee is never quite strong enough, and the interns come and go in waves. Most of them are decent. They work hard, ask questions, and eventually fit right in. Then there's the one who doesn't. The intern, let's call her T, had been testing everyone's patience since the day she arrived. She leaves the break room looking like a disaster zone. Crumbs on the table, open wrappers, half-finished drinks left wherever she was sitting. There's a trash can right by the door, yet she somehow walks past it every time. We've all tried being polite. Friendly reminders, gentle nudges, even notes on the counter. Every time she has some excuse about forgetting or planning to clean it later. Of course, later never happens. Now she's mentioned she has a disability that affects her motor skills. Nobody holds that against her. We try to be patient, but when someone can manage to carry a cup of coffee across the room, it's hard to believe tossing a wrapper in the bin is out of reach. It's not just the messes either. She failed one of her classes last semester because she didn't finish her required hours. This term, she started complaining that no one had offered her a job yet. It was constant, like the whole office was personally offending her by not handing over a position she hadn't earned. I tried to help once, thinking maybe she just needed guidance. She said her supervisor was too harsh about her client notes, so I offered to take a look. The file nearly made me fall out of my chair. She'd been copying and pasting sections from other clients' notes, and not even carefully. There were wrong names, wrong genders, even wrong diagnoses. That's the kind of mistakes that can cause real problems in this field, especially with insurance paperwork. I tried explaining it, showing her how to fix the errors, and simplified it step by step. She said it was too confusing. Other coworkers tried too, same result. Everything was too hard. We kept showing grace. Everyone said the same thing. Just be patient, she's learning. Then came the day that pushed me over the edge. I'm a plus-size woman who likes dressing nicely for work. I shop smart, hit clearance sales, and usually find decent professional clothes between $20 and $50. I take care of them because good clothes that fit right aren't easy to come by. T had mentioned liking the way I dressed, asked where I shopped. I told her the stores and online brands I liked, but she said they were too expensive. Fair enough. I remember being broke during my intern days. Trying to be kind, I told her I had some clothes at home that didn't fit as well anymore and offered to bring them for her. She looked thrilled, like I just offered her a makeover. The next day, I brought a big, reusable bag filled with gently used clothes, tops, a few dresses, and a couple of shrugs I didn't wear anymore. She went through them one by one, seemed happy at first, and even kept a few tops. Then she reached the dresses. Her face changed instantly. She said she didn't want them because the straps were too thin. I explained that I wore light sweaters or shrugs over mine to keep things professional. She could find something similar online for about $10. She frowned and said she didn't have that kind of money. Then, with a tone that wasn't even shy about it, she asked if I had matching ones I could give her. I told her no. The ones I owned were the ones I actually used. She insisted I had two of the same color and could easily spare one. She had seen both apparently and decided that one belonged to her now. At that point, I realized I'd made a mistake offering anything at all. I told her I still used both and she could always find similar ones online if she wanted. That didn't go over well. She huffed, said she didn't want the dresses anymore, and tossed them back into the bag like they were dirty laundry. Then she walked away. I left it at that. There was no point arguing with someone determined to feel wronged by generosity. Later that day, I overheard her chatting with another intern about dinner plans. She mentioned ordering takeout from a high-end dessert cafe, the same one she goes to almost every week. The kind of place where a single slice of cake costs $12 and the pasta plates are $30. It's her money, sure, but I couldn't help thinking that someone who can buy gourmet cheesecake every week probably doesn't need my spare cardigans. I tried to be understanding. Maybe she doesn't realize how rude she sounded. Maybe she was struggling with something deeper. But entitlement like that isn't a symptom, it's a choice. That night, I brought the clothes back home and donated them to a women's shelter. At least there, they'd go to someone who would actually appreciate them. The next morning, T acted like nothing had happened. She smiled, made small talk, and went right back to leaving her food wrappers on the table. I've stopped trying to fix anything about her. I still treat her professionally, but the patience I had before is gone. Sometimes people mistake kindness for a free pass to take and take until you finally say no. Then suddenly, you're the selfish one. She still complains about money, still grumbles about not being hired, still wonders why nobody volunteers to help her anymore. But I've learned that people like that eventually dig their own holes. As for me, my white cardigan is staying right where it belongs, in my closet, on my back, and far away from her wish list. As someone working on my counseling degree, license will be after graduation, OMG, copy and pasting client notes? I haven't even made it to the actual point of the post, and I'm in awe of the audacity. It's not just sloppy, it can mess up someone's entire record. One wrong file, and she could drag the whole team into trouble. I'm honestly surprised she wasn't dropped from the internship after failing her first semester. Accommodating disabilities doesn't mean letting someone get away with poor behavior or bad work. If she can buy, unwrap, and eat food, she can throw away her trash and wipe down her area. I forgot stops being valid after the 10th reminder. Reasonable accommodations don't mean unlimited excuses. Being a good colleague, cleaning up after yourself, and treating others with respect all matter when it comes to getting hired. You've shown her grace. Now it's on her to learn or move on. I get being patient and supportive, but at some point, forgetting just means not caring. If she's capable of ordering takeout and using social media, she's capable of tossing out her own trash. You can't teach accountability to someone who refuses to see why it even matters. Hey Karen, you ever notice how the ones who do the least always expect the most? Yeah, she wanted free clothes, free help, and a free pass for bad work. You know, Reddit boy, if she can order $12 desserts, she can definitely order herself some manners. She's about to learn what the real world does to that attitude. Spoiler alert, it doesn't come with free sweaters. Karen stole my hair and skin oils and threw them out. Big mistake. I, 32 female, and my husband Alex, 34 male, have allowed my sister-in-law, Julie, who's 34, to stay in our house due to her soon-to-be ex kicking her out and filing for divorce. Julie still has her job, but doesn't want to go through the ordeal of getting a new apartment while dealing with her soon-to-be ex, and we didn't want her to have to stay in a hotel during that. I'm Indian, and Alex and the rest of his family are white. I feel like that might be relevant to what happened here. I use oils for most of my hair and skincare. I also use chemically manufactured products, but I found that it's better for my hair and skin. That's also how my mother cared for me when I was younger. Julie disapproves of this and thinks that I'm just going around town an oily and greasy mess, despite me repeatedly explaining why I do this to her. She's tried to convince me to switch to all chemical products that she uses, but I politely decline each time. When I woke up today after sleeping in with Alex, I walked into our shared bathroom and I saw the case of my oils was not there. I looked further around the bathroom to see where it could be, and I asked my husband if he had moved them. He said no, and that's when I went into the living room and asked Julie about my case. Julie gave me a smirk and told me that she had woken up early this morning and took my case out of the bathroom to drive to the other side of the community we live in and dump it in the garbage bin there. I was tired and thought that she was joking until Julie bragged about it, saying that she did me a favor and that I wouldn't have to use such uncivilized ways of taking care of myself. Once her words sunk in, I was upset and I called Alex into the room to explain to him what she did. Alex seemed disappointed but not surprised about what Julie did and told her that what she did was disrespectful. Julie tried to defend herself, saying that she only did what she thought was best and it shouldn't be such a big deal. I cut her off, saying that I wanted her to give me $76, which was the cost of the oils, so I could replace them. Julie got nervous and said she was in a tight spot financially, so she couldn't pay me back right away. I said that was fine, but I expected her to pay me at some point. After a small back and forth, Julie eventually packed a bag and said she'd be staying at a hotel to give me time to cool down and realize how irrational I was being. A few hours later, my mother-in-law and father-in-law scolded me for making Julie uncomfortable in my home and that I shouldn't force her to pay for something so small. My husband asked his mom how she'd feel if Julie tossed out hundreds of dollars of skincare she owned because Julie thought it wasn't good for her. My mother-in-law just replied with, "That's different," before telling us that I should apologize and then hanging up. Edit. My mother-in-law and father-in-law are paying for Julie's hotel and apparently are going to do so until she comes back to our house. Not the jerk. She stole your items. It doesn't matter if she used them, gave them away, or trashed them. She stole your items and you don't have them anymore. This is after you graciously let her live in your house. That's different? BS. Something so small? Then the father-in-law and mother-in-law can give you the $76. Tight spot financially? Then maybe not incur costs by stealing other people's stuff. She thought that was best? How about not doing that in someone else's house? Does she throw out things she doesn't approve of in everybody's house or just yours? I'm curious why her ex threw her out, but I have my suspicions. Not the jerk, and Julie is an ungrateful brat. She has money to stay at a hotel but not to pay you back for things that she stole from you? My boyfriend, who's 29, told me, 27 female, that there was a chance he'd leave me if I was infertile. I was really sick from ages 22 to 24 with my lungs, and I almost didn't make it. The doctors still to this day can't tell me what caused it, and I recovered, but I still have minor breathing issues from time to time. My boyfriend and I have been together for 1.5 years and recently have been talking more about having kids in the future. We unfortunately never spoke about things like infertility, which sadly runs in my family. I was quite taken aback when he said there was a chance he'd leave our relationship if I couldn't safely carry a child because of my lungs, currently being reinvestigated, or if I was infertile. When I asked him if he was the infertile one, he said he expected me to do the same, but it's something I'd personally never consider leaving him over. We revisited the conversation the next day, and he went from saying there was a chance to him stating he's 95% sure he wouldn't leave me. I, of course, would never stand in the way of him being a father, but I can't seem to shake off the fact that there's this condition attached to our relationship now. It's made me feel like my value is attached to my fertility, and I'm starting to view him in a different light. Am I just being overly sensitive? Edit. I just wanted to note that I'm not actually confirmed to be infertile. I'm just at a slight risk because I've had a few women in my family that had fertility issues, and there's also the concern that I wouldn't be able to safely carry a baby due to my lungs. We would obviously have to run tests to have anything confirmed. Update. We took a week break and came back to discuss what happened. He explained that he didn't mean what he said, and he was in shock because our relationship was falling apart, but I still feel doubtful when even after 24 hours, he only changed it to being 95% sure he wouldn't leave, and during our recent discussion, he admitted he didn't understand exactly how hurtful it would be for me to hear something like that. After reading everyone's comments, speaking to my friends, family, and therapist, we've ended our relationship. Unfortunately, I've realized that after my boyfriend told me there'd be a possibility he'd leave me if I were infertile, that I'm sadly no longer going to feel secure in this relationship, knowing that he's told me he's unable to support and stick by me should I face health issues in the future. And it's making me doubt if he can show up for me at all. which admittedly, he's failed to be there for me already this year during my multiple family passings and important health appointments. I'm devastated and the most heartbroken I've ever been, as I really thought we had a loving and caring relationship and that we would be able to build an amazing life together. But I've realized I'm choosing someone who's never going to choose me and that I deserve better. Honestly, leaving was the right choice because I believe that the first thing he said was the actual truth. He just started trying to walk it back because he saw that it was something that was going to ruin the relationship. I'm glad that she got advice and followed through. She mentioned possible infertility. He said he would dump her for infertility. She got nervous about the relationship and he backpedaled? I don't think he was using his thinking brain, but what's the plan? Assume everything goes great, no infertility, no need to ever have resided this concern. Then he was stupid to have opened his mouth in the first place. Wait to dump her until infertility arises? Save time all around and just break up. She made the right choice for that one. I'm infertile. There's a 0 chance I can conceive and carry a baby. If my significant other said that was a deal breaker, then it just is. Relationship has run its course. Even if later they didn't mean it or weren't sure, I would know that they would resent me for a lack of a baby because of something out of my control. I had to have a total hysterectomy because of cancer. There was no other way that wouldn't have been just rolling dice and praying things didn't go badly. All for a theoretical kid that may never exist. Breaking up is painful, but knowing your beloved is angry with something about you that you can't change is worse than any breakup. Honestly, to some people it is a deal breaker. It's not an evil thing. I also wouldn't want to be with a person who's child-free and vice versa, or with a person that hates pets. That's life. I don't ever want kids, but if fatherhood is important to the guy, isn't that his right? I mean, at least he communicated it directly when the issue came up. It's not his right to make her feel broken. It is his right. He's old enough that he should know how controversial his choice would be for potential partners, and he should have been more upfront before entering into a serious relationship with her. Except, it's not controversial at all. It's the norm that most people want kids, and if one of the partners couldn't or wouldn't have them, then the relationship is over. No, it isn't. This isn't the 1600s. Would I be the jerk for pulling out of my family's Secret Santa after seeing the wish list I got? Our family's Secret Santa, as of right now, has 20 participants. Not sure if this is a normal amount or if it's a lot. I've only been in Secret Santas with 5 to 7 people at work. We have re-rolled 5 times because we're either A, changed the rules after getting our receipt, or B, added people. We started with 10, decided to add spouses, then the kids, and now random family friends. Our current rules are ridiculous in my opinion. We were told to put affordable gifts that a kid can buy, but everyone is putting their expensive life wishes on the list. Then we have to get at least 5 gifts from the wish list with no budget, and you have to declare how many gifts you are giving in the group chat to make sure that you receive the same amount, which makes no sense. You also need to add where the gifts can be found. A few people have also started saying that they're going to buy from lists other than the recipients. I'm already totally confused. Like, why are they making this so complicated? On top of that, everyone keeps editing their lists, adding and removing things that they think of. I've explained how inconvenient this is becoming, and even tried the angle of the financial burden being placed on the parents of multiple kids. There's 6 kids in total in the group. Most of the group agrees, but are explaining that they are gritting their teeth for family's sake. Well, your family sounds like a headache. The list I got today after a month of back and forth, I've been asking since this seems to be a serious project at this point, is riddled with luxury name brands like Dior and Louis Vuitton that I know no one in the group can afford. Maybe 2 people can buy one of these items, and that's a strong maybe. Nothing on the list can be found for less than $200, and I checked. Did I mention that we are not allowed to deviate from the list unless explicitly stated that we can? Yeah. This doesn't feel like the essence of gift giving or even Secret Santa. There's so many rules, no element of surprise. At this point, we're just giving each other items to unwrap. I'm one of 3 who followed the rules, and no one edited their list when this was brought up. My entire list is $100 in total. Edit. Quite a few of you are interested in specific items requested from my recipient. Here's an example. The list I got includes luxury handbags, a PS5, Dyson Airwrap, a cashmere robe, a plane ticket to Bali, to name a few. The cheapest is a green Amazon Kindle, which is $203 with tax. Not the jerk, and I'd drop out. I'd even do it in a family chat if there is one. I'd let them know you would be willing to rejoin with one gift for the person you drew and a budget of a certain amount. Otherwise, Merry Christmas. Not the jerk. This sounds stressful and expensive. Usually the point of Secret Santa is to help relieve some of the expenses of buying a lot of individual gifts. I think this is going to blow up in a negative way the way that they're going about it. It's a complete expensive mess. Let us know how it goes. Not the jerk. This is a disaster. $200 minimum is ridiculous. Kids in the group or not. What's wrong with them? I would back down even if it puts a strain on my relations with these people. If everyone buys 5 gifts, that's $1,000 minimum. It's scandalous. Well, what do you think? Should OP stay in the Secret Santa or not? Please let us know. This is giving me flashbacks to Secret Santa when I was in 6th grade. The gift that I took to school was the coolest vortex football you'd ever seen. Had big wings on it and made a loud whistle when you threw it. You know what my Secret Santa got me? A microwave omelet maker. Am I the jerk for not allowing my boyfriend to have overnight house guests? I'm neurodivergent and bipolar. I'm prone to psychosis, and I was diagnosed many years ago, long before I met my husband. He's been aware the entire time that I've known him, and he knows there are some quirks about me because of my neurodivergence. I'm high functioning, for lack of a better term, and so my issues may be invisible to many people, but my partner, his family, and my friends and family all know my situation. Specifically, I don't have overnight house guests, and I don't allow guests past midnight unless it's pre-cleared with me. This is because the sounds and noises and interruptions of other people are a lot for me to handle, and I can only handle and mask so much before I'm just completely spent and I eventually lose my temper and filter and either become enraged or start sobbing or even find myself unable to sleep for days on end and going psychotic because I'm so overstimulated and I haven't slept. My husband's mother has never seen me this way, and I hope she never does. Losing my temper and filter is not something I want to do around friends or family. I also need 2 to 4 hours to calm my brain down after a lot of socialization before I can go to sleep, hence my midnight cutoff. I don't feel this drained or stressed around my partner, or he wouldn't be my husband. But everyone but him and my best friend of a decade, yes. My husband moved from his city, which his mother lives in, his father has passed long ago, to my city to be with me when we got married. Before he did that, I talked to him about how I can't have overnight house guests. In 2 years of dating, neither of us has had an overnight house guest except each other. He said he understood and it was no problem. But now his mother wants to come to visit for a week at Christmas, and she wants to stay with us in the guest room, my partner's office that has a bed in it also. He sleeps in there when I'm having trouble sleeping. This will require my partner to work in the kitchen right beside my office corner, not really a room, causing a ton of noise and disruption, and we'll have another person around all the time draining my energy. Currently, our offices are separated. My partner said he agreed with the overnight house guest thing when he assumed I meant our friends. He says he never understood it also meant his mother. I've offered to pay for half a hotel when his mother comes to stay, but he says that isn't the point, and she doesn't want to come if she can't stay with us. We live in the city, and the hotel is literally 1 block from us. This is not an exaggeration. I've stayed at it before for a week when I was waiting for our apartment to become ready, and it's very classy. Am I the jerk for insisting his mother stays at a hotel when she visits so I can stay sane? Edit. Yes, I have been hospitalized for 2 weeks before for being psychotic. So just grin and bear it means I probably go back to the hospital for not sleeping and going crazy. I don't think this is a fair outcome for me. Not the jerk. But is he your boyfriend or your husband? The title says boyfriend, but you call him your husband in the post. In any case, the solution is simple. If she insists on staying at your house, you go stay at the hotel. Look, it's not like you're being mean, and it's also not like he doesn't know about your mental health issues. I think he is intentionally obstructionist because he doesn't want conflict with his mom, or he thinks you will cave in. Don't do it. You have a solution. But honestly, has he even explained your mental health issues to his mom? It sounds like she has no clue. OP. Husband of about 6 months. I keep calling him my partner or boyfriend still. I'm totally doing the hotel thing. I'm going to talk to him tonight. People have given many helpful suggestions. His mother knows I'm bipolar, but does not know about the psychosis. Almost nobody does. The amount of people that know about the psychosis is 3 total, including my husband, best friend, and psychiatrist. I'm very private about it because it was the lowest point of my life to be hospitalized for 2 weeks. Update. I talked to John and my mother-in-law, and I got a lot of messages asking for an update. I spoke to my husband John last night about the situation regarding his mom staying at the hotel, and I explained that I would pay for and go to a hotel myself, or pay for half of his mother's hotel when she came. John was absolutely aghast. First, he was freaked out about me not running the house for the week and having to take over my roles, as I had guessed. John has autism and is very attached to his routines. Here's my role in the house from one of my comments. I do his laundry, taxes, all of the vet runs, all of the groomer runs, all of the grocery runs. I plan all of our doctors, dentist, and optometrist appointments. I send out the Christmas cards. I'm the sole driver in the house, and I take him to all of his appointments. I also get all of the car maintenance and washing done myself. I go to the pharmacy and dry cleaner for him. I replace anything that's broken or damaged, his or mine. I plan all of our date nights, all of our anniversaries, our vacations and trips. I picked all the furnishings for our apartment because doing so stressed him out. I do the budgeting, finances, and pay all of the bills, with both our money. It's maybe an hour a night for him to cook and clean, maybe 4 times a week. We get our own breakfasts and lunches, and we eat out 3 times a week. But I spend much more than an hour a day running the rest of the household. So John was already having to make a stretch to his routine to have his mother visit, but to have his mother visit and me gone? He really didn't like that. Plus, he told me he hated the idea of not sleeping in the same bed with me for a week, and that this is a non-starter. So he called his mother, which we were both nervous about because he had talked it up so much. They're from a culture where respecting your parents is very important, and John was extremely afraid of offending his mother. We called her and explained the situation, saying that it's really hard for me to fall asleep unless I'm around him or my best friend, and that's why I had the no house guests rule. We told her there was a place less than a block away that was a lovely 4-star hotel, and we would be happy to pay for it. Well, then his mother started yelling and talking loudly. Not at me, though. Best I can remember, here's what she said. "John, you had a fight with her about me staying there when you're happy to pay for me to stay in a 4-star hotel? John, I know you had a fight because you never both call me unless it's a holiday. You're telling me you didn't immediately give me the chance to stay in a 4-star hotel? John, when was the last time I stayed in a 4-star hotel? Let me tell you, the answer is never." So his mom is extremely excited about staying in the 4-star hotel and now keeps making jokes about how she might not even see us on the vacation because she'll be at the spa, fancy restaurant, etc. at the hotel. John is happy as pie about all of this because I'm happy and his mom is really happy. He doesn't care at all that she isn't staying with us, only that she wasn't offended by the hotel idea. Thanks to everyone that told me to respect my boundaries. All the best. Wait, a Reddit story with a happy ending where everyone gets along? Don't worry, Karen, it's probably just a glitch in the Matrix. Here's one to bring us back to reality. Am I the jerk for telling my cousin I didn't get a graduation present? I, 23 female, recently graduated from university with honors. I'm not from the US. I attended uni for free and had a scholarship which took care of my housing and food situation. The country I'm from has really good deals for student dorms, and I was able to stay at a dorm for the entirety of my studies. I don't own a car either as I work from home. This will be important later. I landed a stable job right after uni, and I'm attending what you in the US call grad school. My parents weren't really supportive during my studies. They expressed zero interest in attending my graduation or conferences when I presented work. Yesterday, I visited my uncle, male 43. He took his kids to Paris for a holiday, and they had a blast, so I went over to see photos, videos, hear how it was, etc. My cousin, who's 8, she asked if I'd ever been to Paris. I told her no, but it is on my list. She asked me why I never went to Paris, and I told her I never had the opportunity. Now, my uni friend, male 24, was in Paris at the same time as my uncle and cousins, and they met by chance in a restaurant. My uncle knows my friend. My uncle is an interior designer, and he designed my friend's mom's house after I introduced them, and my uncle mentioned that they saw him in Paris. I remembered he was gifted a trip to Paris and London as a graduation gift from his parents, and my uncle mentioned that my friend told him so. I remembered my friend telling me about that holiday, and I verified to my uncle that was probably his graduation present, and then my cousin asked what I got as a graduation present. As you all probably have guessed by now, I got nothing. I'm absolutely not entitled to anything, but for context, my younger sister, who's 19, got into uni this year, and my parents gave her roughly $900 worth of gifts, including shoes and jewelry. I told my cousin I got myself a pair of shoes I really wanted for graduation, and from my first real paycheck, and my boyfriend gave me a notebook. My cousin looked really sad and told me that's really not enough for something as big as a graduation. My uncle looked really upset too, and I just switched over to another topic. This morning, I got an angry call from my mother. She called me an ungrateful brat for demanding a gift for doing what was required of me to do and asked if I won a participation trophy. She also mentioned my uncle suggested they buy me a car, something I never wished for or expressed wanting, and said if I want a car, I should work for it, a sentiment I agree with. I just hung up because I didn't have it in me to deal with her. So Reddit, am I the jerk? Not the jerk. It seems your mother is wanting to yell at you for demands that your uncle is making. Her issue should be, and should remain, with him. If she's embarrassed by your uncle for not giving you a gift, you still don't owe her an apology, as this is also something between her and your uncle. Not the jerk. You gave an honest answer to the kid's question. If your parents are embarrassed by the truth, that's their problem. Karen calls me undateable, so I made her cry. This is a weird title, but here's what actually happened. My ex and I broke up 5 years ago after a year-long relationship. He broke up with me, and I took it very hard back then. I can't say I did anything crazy, aside from a few weeks after the breakup, getting really drunk on a night out and sending him some embarrassing texts. It was the worst heartbreak I've ever had, and it didn't help that he kept messaging me to be friends, even though I tried to set boundaries and say that I need space to heal. Anyways, that's all in the past. I can confidently say that I have indeed healed from that, and I'm over him. He recently got married to a girl he started dating like 2 months after we broke up. Honestly, I'm happy for him. Good for them. Me, on the other hand, I've dated since then, but haven't been able to find anyone worth marrying. I haven't even had another serious relationship since then. He's still in the periphery of my social circle because we still have a lot of mutual friends from uni, and sometimes I see both of them in social settings. While he and I have buried the hatchet and usually just chat when we happen to be in the same room for a bit, although we never text or meet up outside of these contexts, his wife and I have always treated each other with polite disinterest. I know she really doesn't like me. An important note about her is that she's been unemployed for a long time. I don't know if it's because she wants to be a stay-at-home wife, completely valid if that's her thing, or because she's been unable to find work, but she hasn't worked in many years despite having a master's degree. I've been really able to advance my career in the past 5 years, and I'm quite far ahead in my field for someone my age, and I'm very proud of myself because I worked extremely hard. Anyways, here's the issue. The other day, a bunch of people went out for drinks, including myself. They were both there. We were all sitting at the same table in a bar. Someone I haven't seen in a while asked me if I'm dating anyone. I replied, no, not right now. My ex's wife quickly made a snark comment, "Oh, it's okay. Some people just stay single," in front of everyone, like 10 of our friends. Without missing a beat, I blurted out, "Yeah, just like some people are meant to stay unemployed." She got really upset, cried, and left. Her husband messaged me that I should apologize to her for embarrassing her. I said I will if she apologizes first. He said she refuses because what I said was worse, apparently. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. People need to learn not to start crap unless they can handle someone else finishing it for them. I have zero sympathy for jerks that are inexplicably rude and then have the audacity to act offended when the object of their rudeness fails to passively accept it. Not the jerk. What she did and said was uncalled for. What you replied with was gold. She seems jealous of your achievements and the fact that her husband still keeps in contact with you. It seems like a lot of insecurity on her end. Even though you are on good terms with your ex now, do you think it's possible to cut ties with him? It just seems like his wife gets a kick out of trying to berate you. He will always have to take her side since she is his life partner now. I just feel like it's going to cause a weird drift in your social circle if she keeps getting included, and she will, because she is his wife. Not the jerk. Don't insult or comment on something unless you're prepared for something to be said back to you. She clearly wanted to dish it out but could not take it, and that's how most of the world works. What's the worst that's going to happen? They aren't going to talk to you when you're in the same social circle? My guess is that you could care less if they do or don't. You're the jerk. I don't know about her tone, but just saying some people stay single isn't an insult unless you're the type that thinks single people are worth less than people in relationships. You overreacted to a touchy subject because you're truly not over the breakup. You may be over your ex, but you transferred your resentment to his new partner. She was giving the right message, but she was the wrong messenger. I see why things didn't work out with your ex and why he would rather be with someone who's unemployed because you sound petty and entitled. You can convince yourself that you're better than her because you have a career, but at the end of the day, she's the one he's coming home to. Fix your attitude, and maybe you'll find someone worth marrying, like you say. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her ex's wife? Please let us know. Another good comeback would have been, some of us are meant to settle for leftovers. Karen left her husband, now she really regrets it. I told her that she did this to herself. My daughter Gina, who's 38, left her husband Dan, who's 40, for a younger and more exciting man from her work. They broke up when she got hit with a condo levy she asked him to help pay for since he was living with her. He declined since he wasn't on the deed. He said he didn't mind paying rent, but that maintenance was on the owner. They fought, and that was that. She ended up having to sell the condo. It was too expensive for her alone, but it was something she fought for in the divorce. That was 6 years ago, and she finally burned through the money from the sale. We told her to buy something smaller in a different neighborhood, but she insisted that she needed to live there so the kids wouldn't be disrupted. In the meantime, our son-in-law just remarried a lovely girl, Madison, who's about 28. Our grandkids love her, and she's always very pleasant when we speak. She's pregnant, and the kids are excited for a new sibling. My daughter is back living with us. All she does is work and complain. She has to work too much. She can't meet good men. This new woman stole her life. It never stops. My wife is always commiserating with her about how she is so hard done by. I just keep my mouth shut. Madison came by yesterday to pick up the kids. After she left, my daughter went off again. She was driving a new car they got since her old one would be impractical for a family of 5 to drive around in. The kids ran out to see it and check out all of the bells and whistles. Gina didn't even say hello. After Madison and the kids left, she started whining again. Now about how she can't afford a new car. I couldn't help it. I told her that she made her choices to give up her life she had for something different, and that choices have consequences. She literally ran crying to her room, and I felt like crap. Her mom scolded me for being so harsh. I apologized for saying what I said, and I honestly feel bad about it, but I think she needs to stop complaining about her life since she's the one that chose it. Not the jerk. Your daughter is 38 and is old enough to hear the truth. You don't need to use kids' gloves anymore with her. Well, what do you think? Was Dad too harsh with his daughter or not? Please let us know. Gee, maybe if you didn't run out on your family, you wouldn't be in this position. Am I the jerk for expecting my daughter to stick to our chores for rent deal? So I have a 20-year-old daughter who's currently living with me rent-free while she attends college. When she moved back home, we made a deal where she would cook and clean the house as a form of payment for her living here. She agreed to it, and we both thought it was fair. However, recently, she approached me and said that the cooking and cleaning are taking up too much of her time, making it hard for her to study and complete her homework. She asked if I could reduce the number of days she has to cook to give her more time for her studies. I told her that she should be grateful for the deal I offered her, and that it's not that hard to do a few hours of chores compared to what many kids her age are going through. I pointed out that some of her peers are working 9 to 5 while going to school simultaneously, and I've given her the luxury of just handling some household chores in exchange for free housing. She ended up calling her aunt, my sister, behind my back to complain about how I'm treating her, and my sister called me and kind of went off on me, basically saying I'm being too strict and I should listen to my daughter. Here's where I'm unsure if I'm being the jerk. I want to stick to the agreement we made, but my sister's words had me questioning my stance. Am I the jerk for not wanting to change the deal we initially made? I thought it was a fair deal. Edit. I wasn't expecting this post to blow up. Just to address some things. For one, I'm my daughter's father, not her stepmother. Her mother is no longer with us, and I'm currently single. This isn't a Cinderella story. 2, I'm not a jerk for making my daughter cook for my sons who are still kids. They don't know how to cook, let alone clean themselves. 3, I'm not trying to take advantage of her. As I said in my post, a lot of people her age would love to be in the position she's in right now. I'm paying for her college, and all I expect back from her is a homemade meal. I appreciate the feedback, but a lot of bad assumptions were made about me, so I had to clear it up. Edit 2. After reading a lot of you guys' comments, I'm leaning towards making an ultimatum with my daughter. Either she can get a job and pay some of the rent so she no longer has to consistently cook and clean anymore, or she can continue with the deal I initially offered her. To compromise a little bit, I might change some of the days she has to cook and clean to days where she has more free time to do so. I believe if she decides to take a 9 to 5, she will eventually realize just how good the offer I initially made with her was. Some may think I'm being harsh, but my stance is different on that, because at her age, I was going to school and I paid full rent by myself with no help from my family, so I believe this to be a fair compromise. You're the jerk for not listening properly to your daughter. You say, many people do this, that, and the other. Well, your daughter is not many people. She is overwhelmed with the sum of her duties right now. She's just asking you not to have to cook some of the days of the week so that she can catch up on her schoolwork. Is that so terribly unreasonable? I don't think so. You could let her not cook on the weekends. The whole arrangement can be evaluated in 3 months to see how it works for your family. That would be a reasonable arrangement. You're the jerk. You sound like Cinderella's stepmother. This is your daughter who is attending college and you're treating her like a full-time maid. You're not asking her to do some chores. You have her cooking and cleaning full-time for a family. That's a huge difference. At the very least, the cooking needs to stop. You cook for your kids and clean up after them. Then, if you want to assign a list of weekly chores, fine. Things that are done once and completed until next week, but not daily cleaning up after 3 people. That's exhausting, and that's your job. You're the jerk. Your daughter should absolutely not be cooking breakfast in any shape or form for your 10-year-old and your 8-year-old. Cooking an easy dinner 3 to 4 times a week is fine, but your son should be helping her with the cleaning, and they should definitely be responsible for their own breakfast. Cut the poor girl some slack. Not the jerk. What would she do if she was in a dorm or apartment? She needs to suck it up, Buttercup. It's part of adulting. One semester I did 19 hours, was on the cheerleading squad, so games once or twice a week and practice every day, and I worked part-time, all while keeping my own place. She needs to stick to what was agreed upon and maybe take a look at her priorities if she supposedly doesn't have enough time. Not the jerk. Folks are taking it that she is slaving away for 10 hours a day. She's not. She has to cook, like she would if she lived on her own, and clean, ditto, for a free place to stay. Yep, she is family, and got the family deal that one would not give to anyone else. It's time management. The only way you're the jerk is if you don't let things slide for the week before and during mids and finals. She's the jerk for squealing to her aunt like a little stuck-up brat who doesn't get her way. Keep on keeping on with adjustments for mids and finals. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or his daughter? Please let us know. I think she'll be a lot happier if she just gets a part-time job and starts paying some rent if her dad is going to make her do so. Am I the jerk for interrupting my husband's work call to watch his daughter who threw up in my car so I could make my doctor's appointment? My husband is a workaholic. He works from 8 to 6 every day with no lunch and travels 50 to 75% of the time. I'm a stay-at-home mom with 3 kiddos. They're 8, 4, and 18 months. I do all the chores at home and also partially homeschool the 8-year-old. My husband never takes off work to help with the kids, as I am a stay-at-home mom. Well, I tweaked my shoulder and it's been hurting for 4 months. I recently got an MRI and had my follow-up appointment scheduled. I didn't even bother asking him to take off to watch the kids because he never will, because he always has something going on at work. But I did book the appointment on the family schedule and I told him about it in case a kid was sick. So I left the 2 older ones home with him as he was working from home. Well, my youngest threw up in the car after I had been driving about 10 minutes. I texted him asking if he would take off work so I could still make my appointment, but he wouldn't respond. I was able to have my mom come over and she was willing to watch the sick kiddo so I could make the appointment, but we couldn't figure out how to remove the car seat so we could wash it off. It was a new car seat and I didn't have the time to YouTube how to get it out and still make my appointment because at this time I would have been over 20 minutes late. Well, at this point I went into his office at home and I asked him to get off his call and he completely blew up at me. At this point, I had already tried calling and texting him. I get that I shouldn't interrupt his work call, but parenting is an equal responsibility, and had she been in daycare, one of us would have had to pick her up. Plus, he's on call 75% of the day. Am I the jerk for making him get off his work call to help with his daughter? Edit. I did ask my husband before I booked the appointment to watch the kids. He said he could, then last minute said he could only watch the 2 older ones. I assumed if he couldn't have interruptions, then he wouldn't have agreed to watch an 8 and a 4-year-old. My mom normally refuses to watch the babies. She will watch the kids when they are older, but not babies. I used to work as a lead accountant, But when we had kids with my husband's travel, I quit work because I didn't want my kids to spend all day in daycare since I am essentially a single mom when he travels now with 3. I would use up all of my sick days in a heartbeat because he would never agree to take off since he's the one earning more. We're on a budget, so paying for a babysitter is not an option. As to him being a workaholic, he works well over 10 hours a day on the days he's traveling and will not even call the kids every day as he's too busy at work or at clients' dinners. Also, even if he were in an office, if a kid was sick and I worked, one of us would have to pick up the kid from school or daycare. Emergencies happen. And yes, my mom in the end did agree to take care of the baby. I took her car, got to the appointment about 15 minutes late, but it was 90 in Texas, and the $500 car seat would be trash sitting in the sun, so he did end up taking it out. I don't get it. Your mom came over, so the sick kid is being taken care of. Why did you need to get him off his work call? Edit. I'll go with you're the jerk. I think this was poor planning. If your mother was able to be there anyways, perhaps she should have been there before you left. Your husband is working from home. Working. And if he didn't happen to be working from home, then you would have had to solve your own inability to remove your own car seat. And then he's working from home, so he shouldn't have the responsibility of watching kids while trying to financially support a family of 5. I bet he's stressed about trying to ensure he's able to maintain financial stability on a single income. I recognize you had to attend your appointment, but it's absurd you wanted to bring a baby there. You should have made alternative arrangements, and none of this would have happened. Maybe it's everyone sucks, maybe it's you're the jerk. Either way, you're not an innocent victim in this story. He's on call 75% of the day? Yeah, OP. It's called having a job. OP is fine with the money coming in from this cadence of work, but gets passive-aggressive when the time allocated to earn for the family is not to her liking. Being out of town half the year when you have a young family is not sustainable, especially when you're still very busy with work when you're at home. Dude is going to be a stranger to his kids, and they will be on a fast train to divorce with this schedule. Sometimes it's better to downsize your life in order to achieve better work-life balance. Nothing in this post indicates that OP has high lifestyle expectations that are causing husband to work so much. Your tone is kind of gross. I'm a stay-at-home mom. I do try to schedule things around my husband, but when I can't, I don't hesitate to ask him for help. He may not always be able to step in with the kids, in which case I arrange someone else. But I'm not scared to ask him, and he does try to make it work. He also spends a lot of time with the kids generally and makes much less money than he's capable of because he's purposely pursuing a career path that allows that. Time to have a very serious discussion with your husband. You sound so resentful, you guys can't go on like this. I'm pretty sure your husband's workaholic tendencies is precisely how you're able to be a stay-at-home mom full-time. If you want him to step up and do more childcare and work less, that's a conversation worth having. However, that would mean you would likely need to step up in certain ways yourself. If childcare should be fully equal in your eyes, shouldn't bills and financing also? You're the jerk about the car seat thing. You could have either figured it out, you had no time to Google or YouTube, but plenty to rush home and interrupt the call, BS, or go to your appointment and deal with the seat later. This was not even remotely urgent and not worth interrupting. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her husband? Please let us know. Imagine homeboy sitting in the bar with his friends telling them this story about what his wife did. It's not funny, Karen. Dude's gonna need a drink after that. Am I the jerk for asking someone why they used the treadmill right next to mine when all of the other ones were open? I was at the gym yesterday at around midnight, so naturally it was almost empty. There were a few other people doing other machines, but none were on the treadmill. I hopped on one near the middle and was on it for about 20 minutes before somebody came in and literally got on the one right next to me and started running. There are TVs overhead, but they're all on the same channel, so wanting a view of a particular show was off the table. I stopped running and politely asked them, if literally all the treadmills are open, why would you pick the one next to me? I'm not asking you to move, I'm just curious why some people do stuff like this. Instead of answering, they just looked at me dumbfounded, so I moved to a different treadmill. When I got home, I told my roommates what happened. One of them said I should have just said nothing and picked a different treadmill, and the other one agreed with me that it is super weird. Was I wrong here? I just feel like it's certain social rules to not be broken. Not the jerk. In my opinion, it is absolutely unspoken etiquette that you give people space at the gym, and that you only choose a machine directly next to someone if there are no other options, especially at midnight. This does seem rude and borderline creepy to me. I debated everyone sucks here because I don't think you really needed to confront them, but they absolutely started it, and asking if there was a particular reason or explanation seems fair. Has OP said anywhere what the genders were? When I'm on a commuter bus, it isn't uncommon at all for other, usually younger women to sit next to me, although there are open seats around the bus. They do it to feel safer and avoid guys hitting on them. It was late at the gym with few people. That can make women feel unsafe. Edit. I have a favorite treadmill at the gym. The resistance is just right. If it's open, I grab it, and I don't care who else is on what piece of equipment. Once in a while, some guy might say something, thinking I'm interested, but I've learned polite ways to shoot it down quickly. Not the jerk. This always happens to me. And then they don't use an incline, so they're really loud right next to me when there are like 20 other treadmills open. And I'm a woman, and 100% of the time, it's a guy that does this. I also want to know why they do that. Possibly wants to start a conversation with you, but has zero idea how, so he thinks maybe if I'm close to her, I'll think of something in the moment. That would be my assumption. Info. What are the respective genders here? Because sometimes it wouldn't bother me, but I've definitely seen men who ignore the every other machine custom and jump on the treadmill next to a woman as a prelude to hitting on her. I noticed you left out the genders. That was really stupid of you because it makes a huge difference. If you're a woman and this was a man, I hope you reported him to the gym for harassing you. But if you're a man and this was a woman, you're a jerk. And before anyone cries about double standards, just stop. It's totally different for us, and you know it is. Anyone who supports creepy guys doing this kind of stuff is just as bad as they are. You're the jerk. I'll explain this for all of you since none of you are familiar with this concept. This is called being sociable. See, back in the 80s and 90s, before everyone spent every waking moment on their phones, we used to do something called talking to people. We said ancient phrases to each other like, "Hi, how are you? My name is blank, what's your name?" These days, you youngsters seem to be allergic to talking to each other or even being on a treadmill next to a stranger. Then when people like myself or the guy in this story try to strike up friendly conversation, you act like there's something wrong with us. Happens to me anytime I'm in a waiting room and try to make conversation with just about anyone. They give me a one-word answer and go right back to their phones. I feel sorry for the younger generation who hates talking to people and making friends. When I started going to the gym back in '84, it was a party every day and we were all friends. You could sit next to anybody you wanted to on a bus back then and they'd talk to you the whole time. These days, nobody wants to talk anymore and it's so sad to me. And ladies, I know you all think you're God's gift to the world, but just because a man tries to strike up conversation with you doesn't mean you're in danger. Crazy concept here, but what if he's just, wait for it, friendly? Ever heard of that concept before? Maybe not, since none of you seem to be capable of being friendly yourselves. My parents ruined my wedding, and I don't think I can get over it. My now husband and I got married on Halloween, and I'm not okay with how our day went. We didn't want anything big, just close friends and family, at the courthouse, dressed in costumes. There were supposed to be 12 adults and 1 kid that was on our guest list. Let's start off with the night before. My husband got sick, and he took the whole day to recover to be well. The plan was to get nails done, have my mom French braid my hair, then go home, help him feel better, and pack. When I got to my parents' house, my mom informed me that my 2 aunts were coming and that she invited my cousin. I didn't want him there. Second, she told me as my dad was on the way to pick him and my sister up. I love my cousin, but I'm not close with him, and he drinks too much and everyone else enables him. My small reception was dry, and she promised me that he wouldn't be a problem. The reception was at my parents' house, so she was busy cleaning. I still needed to comb my hair out, and she wanted to surprise me with decorations. Long story short, we were running low on time as it was 9 p.m. and I needed to head home to sleep since our wedding was early in the morning. She doesn't start my hair until after her and my cousin start drinking and smoking. I'm already annoyed. I make it home at midnight and still have to check on hubby and pack. I go to bed at 3 a.m. and have to be up at 5 a.m., but I woke up 30 minutes late. I drive back to her house to get ready and help her get ready. When I get there, everyone is sleeping because after they set up decorations, they stayed up late drinking and smoking. Already running late and stressing because the veil I made myself wouldn't stay. My cousin starts rushing me. My parents start fighting loudly and I'm already exhausted. We make it to the courthouse, get married, and I got a handful of pictures, but everyone else is in like 30 pictures. I got 1 pic that I liked and only 10 were taken.
We get brunch, and only my friends are talking to me and my husband. Everyone else isn't even paying attention to us. My mom keeps saying, "I'm a mother-in-law today." My friends had to leave. They let us know in advance, so now it's just my family. My cousin is super drunk, won't stop talking, no one is listening to me, and the only person that keeps checking on me is my husband. Eventually, I get overwhelmed, and we check into our hotel and take a nap. 2 to 3 hours later, we head back to the house and give everyone a second chance, but they are clearly more intoxicated and loud. Cuss words are flying. My husband's trying to calm me down by telling me to start playing our wedding playlist that we made ourselves. The entire time, my cousin is complaining about the music. He wanted us to play more rap. Now, I wasn't opposed to song requests and even played some songs that he requested. But every song that wasn't his, he complained, asked me to turn it off, or asked me why I would play this song. Our first dance was to "Can I Have This Dance" from HSM, and he asked me to turn it off. When we were ready to cut the cake, no one came and took pictures. No one was even in the room with us because my cousin was drunk rapping his hot mess bars. My wedding day didn't feel like my day. I had no say in anything, no one paid attention to us, and I have one picture. This was supposed to be the happiest day of my life, but here I am. I'm crying at 4:32 a.m. on Reddit. No sleep, while my husband sleeps peacefully. I couldn't tell him earlier because we had to get intoxicated just to deal with them, and he already doesn't like my dad, so I didn't want him to say anything in that situation. Update. After posting here, I tried to get some sleep, but couldn't, and I ended up waking up my husband. He and I talked, and he told me he felt the same way. I cried all morning until he made me lay down to finally sleep. I got maybe 3 hours of sleep before waking up in incredible pain and feeling nauseous. We checked out of our hotel early and went to the hospital. I had the same sickness he had the day before our wedding. We went back to my parents' house so I could get some real sleep before making the drive home. We did not talk to my parents about it. After talking to our friends, we decided that we would redo the pictures next Wednesday and have a mini party to celebrate. My husband told me to feel my feelings, but not to worry about it because he would fix it. I trust that he will. What I hadn't mentioned in my previous post was that this was my first wedding and we were having another one next year for everyone to come to, which is why it hurt me so much to have my mom do that to me. Neither one of us are particularly close with our families, but so as to not have drama, we decided to have a smaller one this year and the bigger, more extravagant one next year. After what happened with this wedding, we both made the decision that my mom would never have the opportunity to do this to me again, and she will have no say-so in the next one. We did eventually talk to my mom about her actions, and it went about as expected. She made herself to be the victim and made me out to be the bad guy. She used my aunt's passing as an excuse to invite my cousin. She also told me she had asked if he could come, but doesn't see that she gave me no way to say no. She doesn't understand how she ruined our day. "I'm sorry you feel like I ruined your day," was the apology I received. Eventually, I gave up trying to get her to understand how she ruined it, and the fact that we weren't mad at her just extremely hurt. I did tell her that there was no way for her to make this up to me, and apparently that was the wrong thing to say. I gray-rocked her until she got off the phone and cried into my husband's chest until he made me laugh. As for going no contact or low contact with my parents, I was already low contact with my dad for things in the past, and I'm currently low contact with my mom, but she doesn't get that. She called me 20 times today alone, and I haven't answered once. I'm working on processing things that happened in childhood, but I can't get over the fact that they're my parents. I know with everything that has happened, not even just my wedding, that I should be no contact with them. For some reason, my heart won't let me. Low contact for now. After almost a year of being gaslit, I won. I was fired in late January for misconduct. This was absolutely untrue. I was a fantastic employee. However, I found out the woman we had hired, and who was still in training to take my place, was earning more than me. After I'd asked for a raise several times over 4 years and been told there wasn't money in the budget. I asked to speak with my employer about it, and he fired me on the spot over the phone. His words were, "Get out of my office. I never want to look at you again." I don't believe I'll ever forget how cold my blood ran in that moment. The panic, confusion, and heartbreak. He always exposed Christian values. Not my cup of tea, but I thought he meant well, and I considered him a second dad. So to say this stung was a massive understatement. Since I was fired, my mental health issues multiplied. I derived a lot of my self-worth from what an amazing and dependable employee I was. So when I was fired so suddenly, nothing made sense. I went through a complete crisis of self. I maxed out several credit cards just trying to keep up with rent, bills, and food. I spent an embarrassing amount of time this year just fully disassociating and crying because I was fired and I was not entitled to any unemployment or benefits. I was on my own. I filed an appeal with the labor board in February and finally had my hearing about a month ago. Today, they ruled in my favor. The judge saw right through my employer and his tricks, the way he was trying to throw me under the bus and disparage my character. The written decision was page after page of, "He was wrong, you were right. We have reversed your decision." I'm really hopeful for some back pay. I don't know how that works, but honestly, it's so much more important to me that I feel like I got my character back. I got me back. I'm not a terrible employee. I'm not a waste of space. I'm not unemployable. I'm not a mean person. I'm a good person who got taken advantage of. This is my first major step towards healing in almost 11 months. I'm still shaking and rereading the letter. I just can't believe it's over. And because so many people are asking why I couldn't collect unemployment, I was fired in January and almost immediately filed for unemployment. It came back denied, saying I was not eligible because I wasn't just let go, I was fired specifically for misconduct. Therefore, they said my employer was under no obligation to pay me unemployment. I appealed that decision in February. I finally got a hearing with a judge in September. I just got the notice of the decision last night. I'm not really sure what my next steps are. There's a big hurdle there. For now, I'm off to take a nap. Hopefully from now on, you don't build any faith, hope, and your self-esteem on your employers or boss. Those have to come from within, not from others. Everyone is replaceable in the workforce. Tell me to go home and shave? No problem. Back in 2010, I moved out of my folks' place to a neighboring town and got my first real job, working for the Hamburger Emperor. About halfway through my 11-month stay, working in only the kitchen, we had a semi-surprise manager, aka Big Boss, come to visit. It was about an hour drive, so we were informed they were on the way. This was a very small town, and on most days I would ask my roommate to drop me off, or I would simply walk the 30 minutes it took to get from one end of the town to the other. Little foreshadowing happening. On the day of note, I had been dropped off for my shift around noon, as I was usually scheduled for lunch rushes. After working for about 2 hours, the news came in, and suddenly nothing is clean or good enough. Now, I've heard fast food health inspection horror stories, and I have none of my own. We kept a clean ship. Lower management, hereby Little Boss, was just looking for anything and everything, and in their triggered state wasn't afraid to split hairs. And in my case, hair was their primary focus. See, my adolescent hormones had the audacity of finally mustering up enough facial hair at 19 that one could reasonably call it a 5 o'clock shadow, without being completely laughed out of the room. Knowing full well my ride situation, but obviously not thinking about it, Little Boss requested that I go home to shave and come back. I said, "Yes, sir," and off I went on foot. After walking home for about 15 minutes, I texted my roommate, who promptly picked me up. I shaved, we got lunch, and then we drove around another 40 minutes of me on the clock while we did dumb college kid stuff. After about 90 minutes to 2 hours, my roommate dropped me a block away and I walked back in. Little Boss was upset, flying around trying to make everything look seamless while being scrutinized by Big Boss. None of my peers noticed much. They're all keeping their nose down as to not be singled out and get made an example out of by Little Boss to save face and look good. You know how these things go. With all eyes on us, Little Boss just started laying into me. I wasn't 100% confident here or even remotely cocky. I just calmly stated, it's a 30-minute walk both ways, and I was prioritizing having to shave. Big Boss asked Little Boss what's up, inquiring about the situation at hand. Before turning away, Little Boss mumbled something to me about how I need to be more upfront about things and can't just take off for 2 hours without telling anyone. They both went into the tiny office and I never heard about it again. With the high turnover rate these places have a reputation for, there were only a couple of people left who even remembered. Big Boss is the one who got me the job.
Karen stole my Walmart order today. So since we don't like shopping, we've been enjoying the online ordering option at Walmart. What's not to like? You pick what you want, pay for it, they pick it and bag it, and you just roll in and pick it up. Today, however, this didn't go as smoothly as it has in the previous few years of using the service. As I said, I put in the order and selected a pickup time. Wife and I roll in and park in space number 4, then I inform them that I'm in a blue vehicle in space number 4 with the app. Other cars were already there. Other cars roll in after we get there,
and the wife and I are just chatting along with the news of the day and what the grandkids have gotten up to lately. Finally, someone knocks on our window and asks what the name is on the order. I say it's our last name. The associate frowns and says, "I'll be right back." Thinking that this wasn't all that unusual, wife and I go back to chatting. About a minute later, a manager comes out to us and asks us if we are sure of the order name. I pull out my phone and show them the app. However, the app is showing us that the order was already picked up. Turns out that the silver SUV in space number 3 was approached by the Walmart staff, asked if they were my last name, picking up their order, and the woman just waved towards the back and said, "Load it up, please." Walmart staff apologized and said they're going to repick the order as a priority and they'd be out as soon as possible. 30 minutes later, a certain silver SUV pulls back into the spot and the woman slips into Karen mode and starts demanding a manager. Manager comes out and they chat for a bit. Being the nosy people we are, we listened in. She's upset that they totally messed up her order. Manager says that she was asked if her name was my last name and she just waved for them to load the stuff. They assumed that they were us, an honest mistake on the part of the Walmart staff given the information they were given. Karen is now demanding that they give her correct order. There are, however, two problems with this. First of all, since they didn't pick up as themselves, the order was returned to stock. And two, Karen didn't bring the incorrect stuff back. Arguments go back and forth for a bit, and while this is going on, they bring out our hastily repicked groceries and a $50 gift card by way of apology. Thus restocked, we decided to drive away, and we never found out what the final Karen versus management outcome was. Plot twist, what if they had the same last name? I've always said that your order number should have a license plate too. That way they can verify it's the right car they're putting the stuff into. How I got a car dealership to give my friend a newer car. Circa 2020 January, my friend makes a stupid decision and buys a brand new car that he can't afford. His insurance is like $400 a month. He makes like $10.25 an hour working as a shift supervisor at McDonald's. His car payment is like $795 a month. Now at $10.25 an hour, 30 hours a week, that's a weekly income of about $300 a week, or about $1,230 a month. So yeah. So my friend came to me for help because I used to sell cars and I know the industry pretty well. I go over his paperwork. The dealer did rip him off, but my friend is trying to find a way to get out of this mess. And ripping someone off isn't illegal. They did of course overcharge him for warranty. They gave him a higher APR. They had add-ons, etc. But none of that is illegal, and I know the only way I can get my friend out of this deal is if they did something illegal. So I look at his finance application that my friend signed. It correctly listed his income, which turned on a light bulb in my head. No bank is going to approve someone for a $795 car payment if they're only making $1,200 a month. It does not make mathematical sense to do that. So I start searching through his paperwork for the finance app the dealer submitted to the bank. Oftentimes, when you submit a finance application at a dealership, the dealership will take the hand-filled out application and reproduce it electronically. This is pretty normal. However, on the application the dealer submitted to the bank, the dealer said my friend was a GM of the McDonald's and made $70,000 a year. My friend had good credit, so it doesn't appear like the bank asked for proof of income. So I go to the dealership with my friend and tell the sales manager he's going to want to put me in touch with the GM because we're going to be unwinding my friend's deal and giving his trade-in back. The sales manager thought I was joking. The GM also thought I was joking. Then I demonstrated how his dealership finance department committed bank fraud. I showed the GM the finance app my friend filled out. I then showed the GM the finance app his dealership submitted to the bank and pointed at the income difference. My friend really made $14,000 a year. The dealership claimed my friend made $70,000 a year. That's bank fraud. That's a felony. Let's keep this simple, shall we? The GM sees his dealership as in a load of crap. The proof I'm presenting to him is rock solid. He knows it, I know it. We're all on the same page. He goes, "Okay, so what can I do to make this right?" I go, "Unwind the deal and give my friend his trade-in back." Unwinding the deal is basically the GM agreeing to cancel the deal and basically erasing the deal and pretending it never happened. GM tries to avoid that, but I remain firm and remind him we can easily take this documentation and cause some serious issues for him. He knows I'm right. My friend also needs a car to get to work the next day. The GM says he'll check into it when he comes back,
and tells me unfortunately they sold his trade-in already. I said, that's fine. Unwind the deal and let's put my friend into something as good or slightly better than what he traded in for. So the GM goes, so he'll buy a car similar to his trade-in? I said, no, you'll give him a car similar to his trade-in. The GM goes, it doesn't work that way. I go, it does when you commit bank fraud. GM is upset with me, and I remind him, I'm being really nice, and the situation can totally get really ugly. Like felony-level charges ugly. Like losing your franchise ugly. So yeah, this is going to hurt, but it's going to hurt less my way. So the GM says all right, and he looks in his inventory, and he tells me they have a 2007 Focus with 10,000 more miles. I tell him, no. The car you give my friend needs to be the same or better than what he traded in. The GM counters, I'm giving him a free car. And I go, no, you took his trade-in. You sold it. You made money on that sale. You also committed a felony in the process of selling him his new car. You are now correcting that mistake. This isn't a free car for my friend. This is you are correcting your mistake. GM insists that's what he's willing to do. I tell him if he can't do better, then we will go to a consumer protection attorney and have a conversation with them. My friend didn't want to go this route, but it was our plan B. We go to get up, and the GM says, wait, give me a second. The GM goes, I have an '08 Civic. It has 5,000 more miles, but it's a Civic and not a Focus. I unwind the deal on the new car and put your friend in the Civic at no extra cost. We agree. GM has the paper drawn up. The old loan on the new car is canceled. They take in the new car again. But because it's already titled, they'll have to sell it as used. That sucks for them. And they gave my friend a better car than the one he traded in. For people asking why we didn't get a lawyer involved from the start, we could have done that, but courts take a long time, and this was a faster way to fix the situation. Never buy a new car. If you really want something newish, get something that's a few years old with low mileage that you'll pay half the cost for. Am I the jerk for going to my best friend's wedding instead of my wife's birthday party? My wife is turning 30 and has planned a big birthday party with her friends and family. Unfortunately, my best friend has also got his wedding on the same day. I've picked my best friend's wedding as we're really close and I don't get along well with my wife's family. My wife is now furious with me and demanding that I do not go to the wedding, but I can't go back on the commitment I made to my best friend. So, am I the jerk for going to the wedding anyway? Extra info. The birthday has been planned for a few months now. Invites have been sent, and the venue has been booked. I got the wedding invite this week. I guess if you want to be divorced, it's fine to go to the wedding. Especially when wife's birthday party was fixed weeks ago. OP got the invite to the friend's wedding only this week. You're the jerk. You're the jerk, simply because you accepted an invite that you received a week ago while she's been planning this for months. Usually I'd say the wedding is more important, but you already have a commitment for that day and decided it wouldn't be as fun for you, and that's messed up. The only compromise I can think of is attend the wedding and skip the reception for the party. How important of a friend can you be if you get the invitation only a few days in advance? And if that guy really would be your best friend, he'd know your wife's birthday is that same time, so you might have other plans, especially as it's a zeroing birthday. You're the jerk. You're the jerk. I can't go back on the commitment I made to my best friend. You've known about your wife's party for months. You were going. Why is it okay to renege on that commitment? And if you're really that close to your friend, why are you only just finding out the date of the wedding now? You're the jerk. Your partner's longer-term planning wins out, sorry to say. She can't have known your best friend was going to throw his wedding that same day, and you have to know this is a make-or-break kind of thing. Your wife is unlikely to forgive this easily. Not the jerk. Wow, as a married woman of 8 years, I can assure you that if my hubby's best friend had a wedding on the day of my birthday party, I would encourage my husband to go to it. You get a birthday party once a year. The wedding should definitely take priority over her birthday party. I can't even say that I'm surprised everyone here is calling you the jerk. If the roles were flipped, they would all be calling husband a man-child for making such a big deal over his birthday party. They'd be calling him controlling for not letting you go to this wedding and telling you to divorce him. But of course, because it's the wife acting this way, everyone here is making excuses for her as usual. So glad I met my husband back in 2010 before people lost the last bit of common sense they had left. My future mother-in-law thinks she's entitled to hugs from my toddler. I'm 28 female and my oldest son is 3. My fiancé, who's 32 male,
His mom came over a few weeks ago and when leaving asked my 3-year-old for a hug. He initially said no and walked away. Came back unprompted and hugged her. She said, "Oh, good, because I was going to be sad." With my fiancés, aunts, and best friend's edits, I sent her this, summed up. We're teaching our 3-year-old that he's in control of his own boundaries regardless of how it makes someone feel. If he's trying to make someone upset on purpose, that's a different story. We don't want him to go against his boundaries to make someone feel better. I'm sure you just want to show he's important to you, but we'd appreciate it if you could show it in a different way. Future mother-in-law. OP, I'd appreciate you not sending me these kinds of messages, and we have these conversations in person. Thank you. Me. I don't really see a difference, to be honest. I would have said the same thing in person. I didn't see this topic as one that needs to be discussed too much. If you have a response, I'm obviously open to hearing it, but it won't change the fact that saying things that could make my kids feel guilty and responsible for others' feelings will not be accepted. Again, you can show that you care for the boys, but not in ways that make them feel bad. Future mother-in-law. Because having adult conversations via text, I believe is pretty cowardice. When you address me or any other adult via text, it's not really appropriate. So I will end this conversation with, if you can't talk things over with me instead of telling me what not to do, then that in itself is a problem. So I'm done. Me. Again, I would say the same words to you in person. Nothing cowardice about the method I choose to say these words. The reason I didn't think it made sense to do it in person is because I'm essentially asking you a favor, and it's your choice to acknowledge it or not. I wasn't looking for a debate about it, just asking that you please not make certain comments to my babies. I'm alright if she'd prefer me to discuss something like this in person, but why ignore my initial message? Seems like blame shifting and diverting to me. She then went to my fiance and texted him, "So by now I'm sure OP told you that she was messaging me. If you guys have something you need to say to me, just say it." They had a 30-minute phone call and my fiance told me that she said, she's already distanced herself from coming over and she'll distance herself more if she has to. And it's not something she was doing intentionally. I never said it was intentional, just bringing her attention to this and potential repercussions. I chose to message her because I'm horrible at having deep and stressful conversations in person. I have ADHD, so I can't process what I want to say and what the other person has said and formulate responses, etc. Also, this is a boundary, so not really up for discussion or debate. Either she chooses to stop or doesn't. Am I the jerk for asking this or how I brought it up? Not the jerk. Future mother-in-law sounds like an extreme narcissist, and I hope your fiance can man up and cut contact with her. If he's the type of mama's boy we usually read about, he might try to side with her instead of you. Is that really the type of man you'd want to be married to? Not the jerk. There was no need for an in-person conversation. If being told not to use certain language that teaches kids they're responsible for your feelings sends you into a tizzy, maybe you need therapy. Addressing an issue immediately is important, not waiting until later, and really, it was a pretty minor ask. Not the jerk. She only has a problem with you texting because then she can't turn around and say she didn't know or you didn't tell her when she does it again. It wasn't a big deal. You were just sending her an FYI, in the future, please don't do this type message. It didn't need to be a full sit-down conversation. She's very defensive. Not the jerk. If she does it again, just say to your kid in front of her, just because she's going to be sad doesn't mean you have to hug her. You're not doing anything wrong. Then she can enjoy that awkwardness of the face-to-face interaction she so desperately wanted. Not the jerk. What is it with boomers and stomping all over boundaries? If I were you, she wouldn't be anywhere near me or my family, which includes your fiance, until she apologizes to you. And how dare she say, we should talk about this in person and not through text. Many people suffer with extreme social anxiety. I'm one of them, and I always prefer to text. That way, I don't have to deal with the pressure of saying something to you in person. There's nothing wrong with texting instead of talking in person, especially when dealing with a bully like future mother-in-law. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or mother-in-law? Please let us know. Every time I'm starting to regain my faith in humanity, Reddit has to come along and just Reddit all over it. Am I the jerk for using money we earmarked for our 6-month-old's college fund to buy back the exact car I owned as a teenager? So, I realize that on paper I'm totally the jerk, but when you dig deeper into my motivations, I'm hoping it's more of a gray area than anything else, and maybe even I did the right thing. When I was a teenager, my dad bought me a classic 1972 Ford Bronco. It was my true passion, and I don't recall a memory from high school that somehow doesn't involve that truck. Plus, my dad and I would spend hours and hours working on it together. And when we went through that father-son rough patch when I was a teenager, it was always that Bronco that brought us back together. I made a huge mistake and sold the truck when I turned 19, and my dad passed of a heart attack 2 months later. So while not logical, I've always felt a karmic connection between the two events. We had a baby in early February. She's our first and the light of my life. My wife is doing well, but she's back at work, and she realized that she hates all the daycares we've tried and really wants to be a stay-at-home mom, and she's still very hormonal from delivery, lack of sleep, and naturally feeding, so she's having a rough time and she's angry a lot. I guess I need to say this. 2 weeks ago, I was driving through our town's warehouse district and saw a Bronco that was pretty beat up but resembled mine. I stopped just for nostalgia's sake, and the owner came out and let me take a look inside. My dad and I had glued a wheat penny under the dash as sort of security measure, so I just sort of checked, and I'll be darned if it wasn't my Bronco. I asked him if he'd ever consider selling it. He said actually someone was on I-25 as we spoke from Colorado to buy it for $21,000. I freaked out and asked him if I could buy it right then and there for $23,000. He said if I could come up with the cash, then yes. I had been procrastinating setting up a 529, so I had $12,000 in savings that my wife's parents had given us. Uh-oh. I maxed out my credit card to Venmo, and my mom brought down a check for $4,000, and I drove away in my old car. It was like a dream come true, like a literal dream come true. It needs a lot of work that I can't afford right now, but it's mine, like in my driveway mine. Again, I can't even describe what this joy is. My wife and her parents are furious with me. They feel I was deceptive, that a real man would have sacrificed anything and everything so my wife could go stay at home with his kids, and that we should have set aside that money they gave us for the college fund. My point is, my daughter is only 6 months old. We have 18 years to set up a college fund for her. But this Bronco means everything to me, and if I wouldn't have acted, it would have been gone forever. Now it can be that same connection between me and my kids. To me, it's the literal meaning of happiness. Like I said, on paper, I'm a jerk. But in real life, it's a gray area. How do you guys see it? Edit. I had no idea this would go so one way. I guess I messed up. I talked with my mom, and she's basically going to buy the Bronco from me in order to refill the college fund and pay off the credit card. The $4,000 will be a gift, and she's going to give me whatever I need to restore it. She's also been awesome to me, and she'd rather the money be spent now than wait for me and my sister's inheritance. Sorry to get everyone so mad at me. I was thinking with my emotions and acted badly. Edit 2. All the "mommy bailed you out" comments, are they really necessary? I found a solution, and it's coming from me and my sister's inheritance, so it's not like I'm not paying for it on my own eventually. Edit. I couldn't figure out why I was getting so many private messages, but I guessed it must be locked now. I didn't tell my wife that my mom bailed me out, and I lied and said that I found a buyer for the Bronco. I'll figure out how to cross that bridge when I get there, but my wife was so relieved that I came to my senses. I don't want to disappoint her. It's going to take all my lying skills to pull this one off over the next few years. This was probably one of the most infuriating "Am I the Jerk" posts in history. My coworkers and I had a field day talking about what a jerk he was. People in the comments rightfully tore him to shreds, and in the end, he still had no clue why people were upset with him. It wasn't just that he was stealing from his kid's college fund with an IOU, it's that other people contributed to it as well, not just OP. Should they all be able to use the fund as a piggy bank? He literally didn't even contribute to it though. He stole the $12,000 that his in-laws had sent them for their kid's college fund. Then he maxed out a credit card and asked mommy to drive over with a check for $4,000. He had absolutely no business even considering this as an option. None of the money he spent on this truck was his. It's absolutely wild. Well, what do you think? Is OP the jerk for spending that money on the truck or not? Please let us know. The best part is the guy who sold it to him was lying. Nobody was on their way to buy it, and the truck's actual value was but a small fraction of what he paid for it. Wait, really? No, I made that last part up. Tell me to work when I'm not on the clock? How about I organize a staff uprising instead? I used to work in a trade shop run by a great boss, and everyone got along great, except for one of the department heads. Let's call them B. For reasons unrelated to the story, the boss decided to sell the shop to B, and in the wake, the majority of the staff quit within months, leaving us understaffed. I naively decided to stick it out and assumed that B would hire people to fill the empty positions. They didn't. We go from a 15-person trade shop down to a 5-person within a year, and that includes the 6 people who turned over. One of the many issues that developed, and there were many, was B's inability to schedule or think through actions to the end and plan ahead. While I worked there, the 2 years with Boss, I often came in 10 to 15 minutes early due to the nature of my commute. I'd come in, unload my stuff, make some coffee, small talk with my coworkers, just hang out with my boss. But we never really started work until everyone's scheduled start time. When B took over, the moment you stepped into the shop, B immediately started to bark orders at you, regardless if you were in the building 15 to 20 minutes early. Mostly it's because B was in a rush to get something done. They just remembered. When I, the now most senior person left at the shop from the old regime, would point out we technically weren't on the clock yet for another 15 to 20 minutes and I want to make coffee, B would just snap at you, telling you to do it now because so-and-so is coming right at opening. So I started to wait in my car, bring in my coffee from home, and would only walk in the door at the last minute. I was technically never late to work and was ready to work the moment I stepped through the door. I don't know if B caught on, but the rest of my staff did and followed suit, since I told them to. For the remaining months I lasted there, all my coworkers would still often show up early to work, but all wait in their vehicles. At some point, one of them had a minivan and we all partied in there and go in as a group. Anytime a new person joined, because someone walked off, we would also warn them of what would happen. It's been several years since I worked there. I do not know any of the current staff besides B. I happened to be doing an on-site install nearby at the time that the shop would open in the morning, and I looked over into the parking lot in front of the shop. Like clockwork, a minute before the shop was scheduled to open, about 6 people got out of their vehicles and walked in. I may not work there, but it's nice to see my resistance still exists. Am I the jerk for letting my daughter wear a costume like all the other kids? I, 34 female, have 2 kids who are 8 and 4. My daughter's name is Aurora. My husband, 36 male, and I chose that name because it was slightly similar to my late father-in-law's and worked well with our last names. It had nothing to do with the princess from Sleeping Beauty. In spite of that, we've had fun with that movie in the past, and ever since my daughter realized that she shared names with a Disney character, Princess Aurora has always been her favorite. Our family went to Disney World in July, and while there, we bought my daughter a Princess Aurora costume. She adores it and wears it whenever she has the chance to. 2 weeks ago, one of Aurora's friends from school threw a princess-themed birthday party. She encouraged her friends to wear costumes. My daughter wanted to go as her favorite character, which didn't surprise me at all. When we got to the party, the birthday girl came to greet my daughter, and she was also dressed as Princess Aurora. I didn't know what her costume was going to be prior to the party. I got worried for a second, but the birthday girl was actually really excited. She said that they looked like twins. It was adorable. They ran off to play, and I forgot about the costumes for a while. About 30 minutes into the party, I was at a table with some of the other moms when the birthday girl's mother came up to me. She asked if I had brought any spare clothes for Aurora. I said yes, I always do just in case. She then asked me to have her swap out of the costume and back into normal clothes. The mother explained that she had hired a photographer to walk around taking pictures of everyone, and was also planning on getting a group photo near the end of the party. She didn't want anyone wearing the same costume as her daughter in the pictures. She also thought her daughter might get jealous since my kid gets to share her name with their favorite princess. Now, if the birthday girl was the one who had a problem, I might have considered it. But no, she was genuinely excited they were dressed the same. It also didn't feel fair to force my daughter to be the only one without a costume at the party. I said no and explained my reasoning to the girl's mom. She insisted for a few minutes, but I held my ground. Some of the other moms started to back me up, and she eventually got up and left. When I went to pick up my kids earlier this week, I ran into her friend's mom. She accused me of ruining her daughter's party by allowing Aurora to wear the same costume as her. She told me she didn't think she'll ever be able to look at the pictures without being disgusted by my behavior. I thought she was exaggerating, but I'm starting to doubt myself. Our conflict has found its way to the mom's group chat that we're both in, and opinions over there are divided. Some think having 2 girls wear the same costume is no big deal. Others think I should have done what she asked me to. Am I the jerk? Oh, you have got to be kidding. You are really not the jerk here. That mom, what a piece of work. Jealous that a 4-year-old is going to outshine her precious? Gross. Terrible behavior on her part. She should be ashamed. I think it's adorable the birthday girl was so excited that another Aurora showed up. Good job standing your ground. Nobody puts baby in the corner. OP. I thought it was adorable too. I remember my classmates would get mad at me for wearing the same costume as them on Halloween when I was a kid. I heard more, "We can't both be Bill," than I like to remember. I'm glad my daughter didn't go through that. If she was so insistent that no one else would be dressed up as Aurora, why wouldn't she specify that when she sent out invites? Not the jerk. It sounds to me like another example of a mom wanting her little angel to be the only special one. I mean, I get that it's the kid's birthday party, but it was a princess party. Your daughter dressed up as a princess. If there was nothing indicated not to dress as that specific princess, then you did nothing wrong. This is on that mother and her own expectations. Am I the jerk for refusing to sleep on the couch? I, 32 male, and my wife, 31 female, got into a heated argument after her friend accused me of hitting on her. The other day, on my way from work to home, I came across a friend of my wife, and she looked like she was carrying heavy stuff, so I asked if she wanted a ride home. At first, she declined, but as I was leaving, she changed her mind and got into the car. We had a nice chat whilst driving, and all was well. I even told my wife about it when I got home. Yesterday, I was confronted by my wife because I allegedly had been hitting on her friend. I obviously denied it, and I told her the version of events, but apparently I was persistent with said friend when offering her the ride. I only asked twice, and the second time was asking if she was sure. My wife insisted that her friend isn't the type to just lie about something like this. Naturally, I asked why she trusted her friend more than me, and then she told me about how her sister's husband cheated with a friend. I was angry at how I was being compared to someone else based on a mere accusation, and we ended up arguing. Then we were just about to go to sleep, and she told me to sleep on the couch because she didn't feel comfortable with me. I argued that I wasn't going to be punished for something I didn't do, and after quite a back and forth, I eventually let her have the room and I slept in the other one instead. I woke up in the morning to yet another confrontation about why I didn't sleep on the couch. I was obviously baffled and asked why I would sleep on the couch when there's an entire other room. According to her, if one spouse tells the other that they need to sleep on the couch, then they should do as asked to show that they're sorry. I pointed out this was ridiculous, especially when you add the fact that I didn't even do anything. Things are now tense, all because I gave someone a lift. Am I the jerk? Update. Well, not too long after the arguments, we eventually confronted said friend, only for another argument to break out, this time between my wife and her friend, and I got more than I bargained for. Basically, the friend denied ever saying I was hitting on her and said my wife took it out of context or misheard her. My wife argued back saying the opposite, that friend said I was making moves on her and flirting. According to friend, her words were along the lines of, "Your husband was very nice to me, and had it been any other person, I would think that they were flirting." Honestly, there was a lot of back and forth about what was actually said, but in the end, it was established that I had in fact not flirted with her friend. However, because of this argument, things were heated and things were said. What got me is when her friend revealed to me that my wife was very insecure and had been keeping tabs on me, checking my phone every now and then without my knowledge, and quote, searching my car and laundry for any feminine products or scents that didn't belong to her every so often. Apparently, she's been confiding all this to her friends, and at some point even considered having one of her friends flirt with me to see what I would do. Needless to say, I'm speechless and very disappointed. It's only now that I realize there wasn't any trust ever in this marriage, and I'm only going to continue suffering because her sister's failed marriage. She's tried apologizing and denying, to the point where I'm confused what she's apologizing for and what she's denying. I was tempted to give her the same treatment she gave me based on an accusation, but to be honest, I really don't have the energy. As for now, I've asked for some space to contemplate this entire marriage. Thanks for the support, it means a lot. Your wife clearly has major insecurity problems, and what she is doing is terrible. OP is wanting to have space, but as much as it is predictable, I don't see this marriage continuing anymore, especially with what's happened. OP may forgive, but it's really difficult to forgive someone that would pull something like this. Am I the jerk for hosting my own Thanksgiving after my daughter-in-law didn't invite me to hers? My daughter-in-law does not like me. My son got her pregnant in college, and I told him to get a paternity test since he was not exclusive with her, and she wasn't either. He told me she was seeing other people. He did, and he is the father. The first time I met her, she told me it was not a pleasure to meet in person who she thinks is a jerk. I never called her names. I tried to explain, but I got cut off by my son. Me and him had a conversation, and he told me to stop it. Shotgun wedding, and 1 kid later, our relationship is strained. I see her at family events, but that's really it. I've been blown off so many times for inviting them out that I don't anymore. I've accepted that I won't be a strong presence in their lives or my grandkid. Now the family rotates who does holidays. It's her turn to host Thanksgiving. I gave a text asking what time I should be over and if they want me to bring anything. She told me I wasn't invited, but my husband is. I talked it over with him and we decided to host our own. I informed the other kids what happened and I'll have dinner at my place if they want to go. Well, none of the other kids are going now, and I'm getting texts from her and my son that I'm acting like a jerk and to cancel my Thanksgiving. Mini update. I sent a text with screenshots about not being invited to my son. According to him, he didn't know I wasn't invited and thought I was hosting to upset his wife. He sent texts that confirm that. I've called daughter-in-law to ask about how he presented the paternity test and if they were exclusive at the time. No pickup, so I will ask over text and give my side of the story. I'll inform when she responds. I got thrown under the bus, and they were on a break when she got pregnant. Apparently, they dated for like 2 months, had a break, became hookup partners again, got back together, then she found out she was pregnant. He presented it as me forcing him to have the test. So, they're going to deal with that now. Not the jerk. Hey, you may have been a jerk to your daughter-in-law. Jury is out on that one, and it's not why we're here. But when it comes to Thanksgiving, you weren't invited, so what did she expect you to do? Not the jerk. And it doesn't matter, but I'm just curious. Would you have told them to get a paternity test if they were exclusive with each other? She sounds demonic. OP. No, it wouldn't have made sense to do so. Info. Why are you blaming this entirely on your daughter-in-law and not your son? Not the jerk. There are unspoken rules when hosting an event on behalf of the whole family. Unlike a regular event where you are the host and in sole control, a rotating family host is actually more of a caretaker. There's an unspoken rule that if it's your turn to host the family, that you actually host the family. She chose not to host the family, but only host part of it. In that context, your response is correct. Friends from out of town want to stay at my home and have me stay somewhere else while they're here. I'm 30 female. My boyfriend, who's 35, has 2 friends who live in another state. We'll call them Jack and Liz. They want to come visit us in our state with their 4 kids, ages ranging from 5 to 10. I live in the downtown area of our city, while my boyfriend lives about 1 hour away in the suburbs. My house is close to where I go to school full-time, about a 5-minute walk, and also close to where I work, 10-minute walk to my first job, 10-minute drive to my second job. I live with my 3 dogs, and because of my busy schedule, I have a dog walker come every day to feed them and care for them. When Jack and Liz come to visit with their kids, they're asking to stay at my house. Here's the thing though, they want me to leave my house so their family can stay there with complete privacy. I think it's also worth noting that I've never met or spoken to Jack or Liz before. They're my boyfriend's friends and not mine. Also, they're originally from our city, so they have their parents and family members who still live here. They seem pretty wealthy because mostly they tell my boyfriend that they are. Liz is a stay-at-home mom and has never worked before because Jack has had multiple inheritances from deceased family members, and he brags about his high-paying job. They also own about 10 rental properties that they collect passive income from. Believe they bought these houses with their inheritance. Before meeting Jack, Liz also did not work because her family is wealthy and supported her. The thing is, my commute to work and school, I have one or both 7 days a week, is over an hour each way from my boyfriend's house in the suburbs. I already have such long days that changing my commute to be over 2 hours a day, even for a week, is giving me anxiety with all the stuff I have going on between work and school. Also, I don't have anyone to walk my dogs at my boyfriend's house, and even if I were to hire a dog walker, he doesn't want a stranger having access to his house. Finally, it would just be really uncomfortable to leave my home, and I'm also nervous about having the kids running around my house when I'm not there and my home is not child-proofed. So, am I the jerk? My boyfriend seems disappointed in me because I'm not opening my home to his friends, and I'm already making a bad impression on them. He also thinks that I'm doing this because I'm deciding to not like them based on what I know about them, just from what I've heard from him. Stuff like they're always asking to use my streaming logins, but keep logging me out. When their dogs get old, they leave them at shelters so they can make room for new puppies. I don't think that this kind of stuff bothers me, but I think that even if it were my own friends making this housing request of me, I would tell them to get a hotel or stay at their parents' house. Edit. My boyfriend lost both his parents young, when he was 16 and 22, and he doesn't have siblings or much extended family. He considers his friends from high school as his family. I'm trying to be sensitive to his situation because essentially he thinks that I should be more accommodating to his friends since they are his family. Edit 2. Regarding their past actions with the family pets, I find it absolutely abhorrent. When I brought it up, I've been told that I am out of line because I don't have family or kids. My boyfriend thinks any criticism of their actions towards pets is a criticism of them as parents, which, since I don't have kids, I shouldn't be allowed to voice opinions on stuff I don't know about. My boyfriend thinks they may have gotten rid of their dogs because of postpartum depression, since they were both within 1 year of a baby being born. However, I still feel like this was a horrible thing that they did. Are they for real? I can't believe the audacity of anyone to ask you to do that, much less people you've never met before. Not the jerk. Tell them Airbnb offers full property rentals to suit their privacy needs. Not the jerk. Why can't they just go to your boyfriend's house and your boyfriend can stay at your place? It would make more sense that way. Asking you to exit your home to give privacy to people in your house sounds very entitled. Well, what would you do in this situation? Would you give up your home for a week so they can stay there or not? Please let us know.
No, and I'd dump that boyfriend for even suggesting such a stupid thing. Why do people stay in relationships like this? I will never understand.
Am I the jerk for serving my sister-in-law dinner on a kid's plate? My husband and I have family dinners at our house every month or so with our family. I have some sets of fine china that I like to switch out between the seasons that I've inherited from my grandmother. When we have our get-togethers, I serve dinner on these plates. My mother-in-law compliments them every time. My sister-in-law, however, has made comments to me that they're not her style. I honestly didn't think twice about it until this past February when one of my plates was put in the sink broken. Chalked it up to an accident. In April, we had another dinner. This time, sister-in-law was carrying both her and her boyfriend's plates to the sink and accidentally dropped both. Again, no biggie at all. In May, she broke 2 more plates, and in June, she broke a plate and a cup. At this point, I was starting to catch on. I brought up these concerns to my husband, and he brushed it off as accidents. I told my mom, and she said that she thought my sister-in-law was doing it on purpose and got me a camera to put in my dining room. In July, we had a dinner, and I had an opportunity arise. My mother-in-law, sister-in-law, and her boyfriend joined us for dinner. While our plates were still on the table, my mother-in-law asked how my plants were doing, and I said that I'd show her. I told my husband to follow us outside so he could show her the plant that he's growing, leaving sister-in-law alone with her boyfriend. When we came back inside 5 minutes later, her plate was broken. When they left, I pulled up the camera footage. I saw her stand up when we walked out and peek around the corner, and then throw her plate on the ground. I kept this video for myself. That brings me to this past weekend. We had our family dinner, and we were joined by my in-laws, sister-in-law, and her boyfriend, as well as my parents, siblings, and niece. I served everyone, saving evil sister-in-law for last. I brought her food out on a child's plate with a sippy cup, and I got those kids' silverware with the plastic handles. She looked at me confused and said,
I think you mixed my plate up with your niece.
And I said, no, my niece is responsible enough to eat on a grown-up's plate. If you're going to act like a kid in my house, I'm going to treat you like a kid in my house. She tried to play coy, but I had my iPad ready and I played the video to everyone at the table. She started crying, swiped the kids' plate off the table, and stormed out. My in-laws both apologized and offered to pay for replacement plates, but I told them not to worry about it. Despite this, we still had a nice time. When everyone left, my husband told me that I was out of line and cruel, but I told him that this has been happening for months, and I've told him it was bothering me multiple times. It's Wednesday now. He's still being cold towards me, and I also got a text from my sister-in-law's boyfriend asking me if I would apologize to her because I really embarrassed her. I sent him the video again, and he left me on red. My husband just called me to ask if I was taunting her boyfriend because his sister called him crying that I was. So, am I the jerk? Not the jerk. You're amazing. You have nothing to apologize for. Your sister-in-law has a lot of things to apologize for, though. OP. I do feel bad that I embarrassed her. I spoke with their mom today, and she and my father-in-law have my back and say that I should demand her pay for the plates, and if she doesn't, then they would. But I'm not going to make anyone do that. I got them from my grandma, so they were special to me. Money can't help the sadness of not having them back. Not the jerk. Your husband and sister-in-law's boyfriend are, though. You inherited those from your grandmother. Sister-in-law has something seriously wrong with her mentally. Who breaks someone else's plates just because they aren't her style? Who cares about someone else's plate? It's a plate and not her house. She's behaving like a kid. She deserves to be treated like one and called out. Does she display any other type of aggressive behavior towards you? She sounds jealous and is throwing a tantrum like a toddler. OP. We were totally fine before this. We've never been like super close, but close enough to grab a coffee and get our nails done together. I've been married into the family now for 6 years, and I love my in-laws. She was mildly passive-aggressive in May when she asked if her boyfriend could live with us while they were having a small issue, but it was my husband that said no. But this would have been during the plate and cup breaking. Karen loses it when I tell her that she's ungrateful for getting to be a stay-at-home mom and expecting her husband to do more chores. The other day, I went to lunch with 4 mom friends of mine. I'm a stay-at-home mom, and so is one of the other moms. Of the other 3, one works part-time and the other 2 work full-time. One of the moms that works full-time mentioned how she had started to pay for a cleaner to come by every other week. They both work full-time and have 2 kids and were finding that they couldn't keep up with all the chores. The other stay-at-home mom was agreeing with her about finding it difficult to keep the house clean when her husband does only a few chores inside the house. She told us her husband's main jobs are cooking dinner, cleaning the bathrooms, and looking after the yard. In my opinion, that's more than a fair distribution of chores, considering her husband works full-time. They have 1 kid who's 10 and no pets. I mentioned to her that it actually sounded pretty fair, and that my husband has 0 cleaning chores and mostly only cooks on the weekends if he wants to. I told her as he works full-time to provide for our family, I consider it my job to do the majority of the household chores. This isn't gender-related in my opinion. If we both worked, I would agree about splitting chores equally, or if I worked and he didn't, I would be expecting him to do the majority of the housework. I have 5 kids. The youngest 2 aren't in school, and I'm a carer for my husband's grandmother, yet it's still easy for me to set aside a couple hours a day for household chores. She strongly disagreed with me, and she thinks her husband should be doing more, and told me couples should split housework equally. I told her that I think she's being ungrateful to her husband, who allows her to be a stay-at-home mom even now that their kid is older. I asked her what she does all day if she expects him to do half the chores and that she just wants an excuse to be lazy. In the end, lunch was ruined and she called me a jerk. 2 of our friends took her side, telling me off for judging her. Was I the jerk here? I feel like I was pointing out the obvious. Your friends took her side and said that you were judging her? You were judging her. Both of you stay-at-home moms have individual arrangements with your husbands that more or less work for each of you. Yours seems to mesh quite nicely with your personal values about how work should be split up between you and your husband. But rather than accepting that hers is different and that it may work for her, you compared yourself to her and conveyed your own moral superiority by calling her ungrateful. You're the jerk. But the friend was complaining that it was difficult for her to keep the house clean, given that her husband does so few chores. People vent. Sure, you can disagree with people's opinions, but the way OP comes off sounds like a bit much. There are nicer ways to say things, or you can just shut up if you don't have anything nice to say. I mean, I don't know the friend, but her husband might be a complete slob that leaves a trail of mess wherever he goes, and cleaning after him might actually be a full-time job. Maybe her 1 kid is a handful in comparison to OP's kids. We don't know the full picture. Instead of being, look, I'm doing more, so you shouldn't complain, maybe she could have found out why her friend was struggling. If OP is such a good stay-at-home mom, maybe her friend could use some tips to keep a tidy home or be more efficient. Show a bit of empathy and concern rather than judgment and criticism. You're the jerk. After what you said to her, you consider her a friend? Sometimes people just want to vent. Sometimes people just want a kind ear who will listen to them because they're a stay-at-home mom and they mainly talk to their kid all day. But you thought it was more important to insult her instead. What did you expect would happen? That your friend would say, "Oh my gosh, OP, you're right. I am a lazy jerk and I need to do better. Thank you so much for helping me see the error of my ways." You consider it your job to do the majority of the household chores? You take care of your 5 kids? Congratulations. Do you want a cookie? Nobody here cares. The thing is, we're not your friends, so we couldn't give a flying hoot about your sad little humble brag. If you want a pat on the back, you need to have friends for that. Oh wait, you just insulted one of them, and 2 others took her side. You're the jerk. Telling someone how they should feel and behave is jerk behavior. You're entitled to your opinion, as are your friends. However, you expressed your opinion in a way that undercut your friend's right to her opinion. Having an "I'm right and you're wrong" attitude makes you a poor friend. Be more supportive of your friends if you want to keep them as friends. Not the jerk. Can you imagine if a stay-at-home dad was complaining about his wife, the one with an actual job that supports the family, and how she doesn't do enough chores around the house? You all would completely flip out on him. The hypocrisy on this site is why the marriage rates in countries like America are declining so rapidly. Some men are going to be okay with working their butts off so you can be a stay-at-home mom, then coming home and doing all the chores that you were too lazy to do. But any man with some self-respect is going to demand you pull your weight as a stay-at-home mom is supposed to. And then you'll just divorce him, take his kids, and he's stuck paying you alimony and child support. Yep, I'm never getting married. It's so not worth it anymore with the entitlement you have to deal with. Oh, you're home after your long day of hard work to keep food on our table? Good boy. Now get started on your chores while I scroll through TikTok. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her friend? Please let us know. Am I the jerk for excluding my adopted sister from family photos? I'm 26 female, and my adopted sister, Allie, is 14. The way we are related is that my younger brother, Michael, who's 24, has been with his wife, Maya, who's 24, since their freshman year of high school. Maya and Allie had a really bad home life, and my mom is very much a my home is open to everyone type of person. So over that year, Maya began spending more and more time at our house, eventually bringing Allie over as well since she was always babysitting. By the time Michael and Maya were 16 years old, Maya basically lived in the guest room, and Allie spent after school, most weekends, holidays, and summer vacations at our house. My mom and dad say that they both love Maya and Allie like their own kids. My other siblings, 18 male and 16 female, also treat her like she's part of the family. Even after Maya and Michael moved out, Allie is still at their house the same amount, if not more than she was before. Now to preface, I have nothing against Allie. She's a good kid, and I make an effort to be nice to her. However, I've never really liked how she was foisted into our lives. She's not actually adopted, and she still has parents and her own family. Yet my parents spend so much time and resources on her. It's ridiculous. Everyone else has started unironically calling her their daughter or sister, and I've refused. I just don't consider her to be family. Anyways, I got married recently, which is where the issue starts. I invited Allie to the wedding, of course, and she came with all of my other family. When we were doing pictures of the wedding parties, I decided that I wanted one with all of my immediate family, so my parents, my siblings, and Maya and Michael's daughter. My mom brought Allie up to come take the picture with us, and I was forced to tell her no. My mom started to get upset, but then Allie said it was okay and sat down by herself. My mom isn't a very confrontational person, so she didn't make a big deal out of it, but then everyone else realized that Allie wasn't there, and they all got mad as well. Ultimately, we took the photo how I wanted it because they didn't want to do this at my wedding, but my entire family is upset with me now. My mom said that Allie cried when she got home because I don't love her, which I don't. I feel like they forced me into a position where I had to do a jerk thing by forcing her onto me. I don't think I should have to consider her family if I don't want to. Am I the jerk? Edit. After the ceremony, but before the reception, the wedding party and both of our close families took photos. I did not include Allie in this photo session, and she sat with the rest of the regular guests waiting for dinner. I did not intentionally exclude her from any of the photos taken. I'm sure she's in some of them from throughout the night, especially because she was there with my family. I hope that clears some things up. Edit 2. Maya and Allie are sisters. Sorry, forgot to explicitly say that in my post. Final edit. The people who are agreeing with me are starting to convince me that I'm wrong. To the people calling my parents nasty things in my PMs, or just saying that they aren't good people, you're dead wrong. My mom is the most caring and kind-hearted woman in the world, and I should have made that more clear in my post. To be clear, I am also not a monster. I don't mistreat Allie. I get her birthday and Christmas gifts every year. However, I'm starting to understand that I did do a crappy thing by publicly excluding her at my wedding because I wanted it to be exactly how I imagined, especially because my mom was apparently blindsided by my feelings. I was 16 to 18 when Allie started coming around a lot, and I didn't form the same bond everyone else did. I never really liked being around kids, including my sister, who by all accounts behaved way worse than Allie ever did. But I recognize that she's become a part of our family, and I think I'm going to make more of an effort to get to know her properly because I do know she is very mature and intelligent for her age. I'm so sorry, but you're the jerk. Unless my math is failing me, this kid entered your life when you were 16 and she was about 4, and you already had 3 other biological siblings who were younger than you, but older than her. Your words sound resentful, as if you started being neglected at that time. But you're taking this out on Allie. I hope you understand that, and perhaps therapy could help. You're the jerk because you were a jerk to Allie at your wedding. You could have gotten your immediate family photos in a much nicer fashion. Edit 2. I know Allie is not adopted. I know she's not OP's family. I know that Maya is really Allie's sister. I know that OP has every right to exclude whoever she feels like on her wedding day. I know she owes Allie nothing. I still think she's a jerk for the way she behaved. I'm not sure why everybody wants to change my mind about that. You're the jerk. You said this girl has been living with you and your family for 8 of her 14 years, more than half of her life, and basically a third of yours. That's a long time. On top of that, you let her sister in the picture. You say that you wanted a picture with your immediate family, but included Maya, the girl's sister, and Maya's daughter, the girl's niece, who, despite being the spouse and child of your brother, would not be considered immediate family. You basically included every important person in this girl's life in this picture, but not her. I'm normally very much on the side of it's your wedding, it's your call, but this seems like you're being unnecessarily cruel to her. Against the grain, but no jerks here. Judging by the ages, you were practically out of the house when Allie became a factor in your family's lives. It does seem like you didn't have a choice to develop the same relationship with her as the rest of the family. She is family to them, she's not family to you. That's not really anyone's fault, but kinda how the circumstances came out. You have no official relationship and no personal relationship. While you could have taken the extra photograph to keep the peace the day of, the fact is, you would have felt weird including someone neither you nor your fiancé consider family in a photograph, and likely preferred the photograph without her as is. There might actually be a slight jerk to the parents. If they want you to accept Allie as a sister, what have they actually done to build a relationship between you guys? It kinda seems like they expected you to just have one, and it doesn't work like that with older kids. We actually see a lot of that in this sub. With step and half-siblings, this is really the same scenario. OP just has no personal relationship to Allie, so it makes sense OP would feel weird about a stranger to her being in the wedding photos. Wow, massively weird energy on this comment thread. Not the jerk. I think the bottom line is that nobody should ever be forced to be family with anyone, period. All these am I the jerk commenters seem to grasp that it's just fine when a step-sibling or a step-parent is forced onto someone. That framework applies here. All these am I the jerk commenters seem to grasp that it's not fine when a step-sibling or a step-parent is forced onto someone. That framework applies here. If you truly are kind to Allie, that's all you owe her. My goodness, you are allowed to take a family photo at your wedding. Well, what do you think? Is OP the jerk or not? Please let us know. Bruh. I threatened to call the police after my cat sitter dodged agreeing on a time for me to get him 3 times. Am I the jerk? I'm only in this city for 4.5 months due to military reasons, and I needed to find a sitter here as I live full-time about 11 hours away, and my tour at this specific location is over in a few days, so I'm leaving and presumably never coming back. Sitter has been watching him since June, and we message every couple of weeks about him, and I've seen him 3 times in person for short visits. So a few days ago, my tour is coming to an end, and I asked her once over Messenger for a good day and time for me to come get him for good, and she did not answer that, but answered me when I asked if I could see him this weekend for a minute. So today I asked her in person if Thursday at this time works, and her response was, "Well, I think I have to work that day." And that's literally all she said. So then I left for whatever reason, and I got a sick feeling, so I messaged her not long after. "Hey, so what day and time does work? I can even get him the night before if Thursday doesn't work." She saw it on Facebook Messenger but didn't reply, so I sent it again. She saw it but no reply. Finally, I sent, "Look, I'm not saying you're the kind of person to do this, but I've heard stories of pet sitters taking someone's pet, so I need to hear back by 5 p.m. today about when to come get my cat. I'd hate to have to show up with the police over something like this." That's all I said in my last message, and before that, I called her twice and got sent a voicemail that wasn't set up after 4 rings and then 1 ring, so she likely saw my calls earlier. So anyways, after I sent that last message, she responds immediately, says things are awkward now, and says for me to call her, and she starts crying. I say, "Look, you may be a great person, but it should not take me asking when to get my cat 3 times, and actually 5 if you want to be technical." Her husband ended up taking the phone after she started blaming me for thinking the worst, but to me, it's a clear line in the sand. I don't know you personally. You don't know me. You get 3 chances. Besides, I didn't even say I was gonna show up with the police. So part of me thinks she had ulterior motives just because her reaction was so outlandish, and she may have done that to tip the scale in her favor. But I'm asking here, am I the jerk? Edit 1. In the phone call, I said several times, "Look, you may be a great person and you probably are. Please don't take this personally. but you just never know in today's crazy world. And at that point, I was ready to admit, maybe I was wrong. Maybe she was. Who cares? Let's just make sure I can get my cat. Edit 2. For clarification, the police said I had to file a report because it could be looked into, so I did, but said that I had several days to arrange a time for all of us to meet up to get the cat, so it's not like we were all on our way to her house. No, you have to file a report, and I felt like I had to do it. Some law enforcement may be in here, but that's how it is at this department. Small city, limited resources. Essentially, me filing a report was about a formality. Nothing real happens until the cops call back and we all meet up. Edit 3. Really wish I would edit the title to say threatened to show up with the police, since that's what I said in the text verbatim. But for what it's worth, the police said I had to file something for it to even get on their radar, and that I had a few days to pursue it. Update. Long story, but after her husband took the phone from her, the conversation flowed good between he and I. He then texted me saying just to talk to him from here on out, which I did. We agreed on tonight for me to go get my cat, and this morning he texted me asking what time exactly. These things made me feel very confident about it. However, I do feel deep down she was trying to keep him, which absolutely blows my mind that you literally can't even trust a cat sitter anymore, even with a professional-looking setup. Even they might take your cat, and as such, I'll be darned if I ever take him anywhere that isn't 1000% official and as businesslike as it can be, like an extremely well-known pet clinic or a vet with boarding services with tons of reviews. Now the dilemma I have is whether to post reviews about her. I'm tempted to. It's just that if I had concrete proof she tried to take him, then I would. But now she can say, "Oh, I was going to get back to you," or "Of course I was going to give him back," and her husband was extremely accommodating. Am I the jerk for letting my vegan nephew eat meat and dairy during his visit? My sister, Rachel, who's 42, and her husband, Frank, who's 43, decided to go on a couples retreat for their anniversary over the summer. Rachel is my only sibling, and her son, Bennett, 15 male, is my only nephew. Because we live on opposite sides of the country, I only get to see them in person once every couple of years. Since I, 36 male, had recently moved to a beach town, Rachel and Frank suggested Bennett could come for a visit. I was excited by the idea, and I told Rachel to send me an email with everything I needed to know. The email contained the name and contact numbers of the couple's retreat and flight information, as well as recipes for several vegan dishes. Rachel and Frank are very into veganism and New Age spirituality. Not my cup of tea, but no judgment. Though I usually eat a high-protein diet, I resigned myself to cooking vegan meals for the week that Bennett stayed with me. His flight landed late in the evening, after which we watched a movie and ate some popcorn before going to bed. The next day, I took Bennett to the grocery store to get some snacks and give me more ideas for things to make. He asked what I would normally cook for guests. I told him I enjoyed grilling and would usually make burgers, pork chops, steak, and seafood. Bennett said all of that sounded great and told me not to go to any trouble on his account. I was surprised and told him that I thought he was vegan. He said his parents were vegan and that he eats whatever they put in front of him. However, Bennett claimed he didn't care about any of that stuff and would be happy to eat what I eat. Rachel's email never said Bennett had to eat vegan food, so I loaded up the shopping cart with various meats to grill. Bennett also threw in a couple tubs of ice cream. I had a great time with Bennett and was sad to see him go. Rachel told me later that the visit was the highlight of his summer. Everything seemed well until a few days ago when I posted some pictures from Bennett's visit on my Facebook page, one of which showed Bennett tearing into a pile of steamed shrimp. Rachel called a few hours later and angrily accused me of trying to undermine their values. I told her she never said that Bennett had to keep a vegan diet and said that she needed to discuss this with him. She said I should have known better and asked me if I would serve pork to someone from a family whose religion didn't eat it. I told her that veganism is not a religion and she should have made her expectations clear. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk for giving him meat. You are the jerk for accidentally ratting him out on Facebook. I mean, you had to know that the photo wasn't going to go well. OP. Several posters have said this, and I feel the need to push back a bit. Of course, I didn't intend to cause Bennett any grief with his parents, but nor did he give me any reason to think that his parents might disapprove. My sister and her husband do free-range parenting style and have always touted how they're raising their son to be an autonomous free thinker. Bennett was completely nonchalant about eating meat and dairy during his visit with me. Never once did he even suggest that we should keep his eating habits a secret. If he had, that would have tipped me off to the fact that his parents didn't approve and we would have stuck to the vegan diet. I just figured his relationship with meat was like my relationship with Chinese food growing up. My parents hate Chinese food, so we never ordered it. Who hates Chinese food? I didn't know that was possible. So we never ordered Chinese takeout or went to any Chinese restaurants. However, my parents wouldn't have cared if I bought Chinese food for myself or went to a Chinese restaurant with friends. Though Rachel and her husband are vegans, I didn't think they were mandating that lifestyle for Bennett. Hence why I didn't think we needed to hide what Bennett ate while he was with me. Not the jerk. I'm vegetarian, and we specifically ask friends and family to not serve meat, especially pork, to the kids. However, at a certain age, around preteen, I assumed the kids were capable of making their own choices, which they are. You offered alternatives that were in accordance with his parents' wishes, but your nephew is certainly old enough to decide what he wants to eat. If his parents have an issue with that, that's on them. How do I, 28 female, move forward from a disappointing proposal from my fiancé, male 27? My fiancé and I have been together for 8 years. As a whole, we have a great stable relationship, but I can't move past my constant disappointment from his proposal. I didn't receive a "this is why I love you" speech or a grand gesture of asking me to marry him. He never even got down on one knee. Not that it's the end of the world, but it's just painting the picture. It was the last day of our camping trip that I really thought he was going to propose during. That evening, he only wanted to go fishing, so I sat in my kayak probably 7 feet away and cried to myself for over an hour that it wasn't going to happen since he didn't propose at any beautiful hiking views point or sunsets throughout the week, and we were leaving in the morning. When we brought the kayaks in after fishing until dark, he went to the truck, came back, and handed me a ring box saying, "This should make you happy." That's it. That's all. I booked the same campsite on the same lake on the same day this year and hinted over and over again that he could make it up to me. He did not even acknowledge the anniversary of our engagement. We are to get married in August, but I can't move forward from this. I cry when friends get beautiful engagements. I cry watching romantic comedies. I feel nothing but disappointment that I will never experience the gesture of love I dreamed about my whole life. Anytime we have a disagreement or I feel unwanted by him, I'm just reminded of the disappointment I feel in regards to the proposal. I don't even enjoy looking at my beautiful ring because it doesn't bring me a happy memory. This feeling is clouding how I feel about him, even though he's never treated me poorly and he's my best friend. I don't want to ruin my relationship over this, but I don't know how to move on. He said he can't change how things happened, which is true, but it's been over a year and I can't seem to move past my disappointment. Edit. Thank you everyone for the comments, no matter how harsh or hard to read they are. I've read all of them. At this time, for my own mental health, I'm going to have to take a step back and think about what I really want for my future. Edit 2. I would like to add, since hundreds of comments are stating my expectations are too high, that I never wanted a grand gesture or a Hollywood proposal, but rather words of affirmation and proof that I mean enough to him that marriage is obviously what he wanted. Additionally, we have spoken at length about my disappointment from a lack of romance here and in other aspects of our relationship. Finally, I did not destroy our camping trip or whine the entire time as many suggested. I never brought anything up for the 8 days we were gone on the trip that I planned. This wasn't a trip he poured a ton of time or money into as people are suggesting, but rather we are avid campers. I cried the last night as he encouraged me to take a job which requires being away from him that morning, and after finding a ring prior to the trip but not receiving it before our trip was over, I was devastated. Not my proudest moment, but I cried to myself, not to him, and nor was I obviously upset for the hours spent fishing, an activity that I hate, but rather shed some tears while tossing a line on my own for a while. I suggested proposing to him a few times over the years, and he hated the idea. I wasn't going to do something he wouldn't be happy with just to speed things along for myself. When I read your title, I rolled my eyes, but "this should make you happy?" That's the most crappy proposal I've ever heard of. It implies that he's doing you a favor. I wouldn't be able to get past that either. You need to talk to him and get to the bottom of it. Does he not want to marry you? "This should make you happy" is not a proposal at all. You would be well within your rights to give it back until he actually asks you to marry him. Honestly, he doesn't really sound like he likes you that much. Sad to say, your resent towards him will most likely continue to grow. Don't get married until this is resolved. Marriage seems like a bad choice. Why don't you try couples counseling? You need to go to couples counseling before you get married. Forget the BS these people in the thread are telling you about your expectations being too high or that you have a princess mentality. A marriage proposal should be exciting and joyous. So you pouted and cried in the kayak, so the moment was actually spoiled by that to start. He may have had other plans, but that may have pushed him to just hand you the ring. I hate to break this to you, but life isn't a romantic comedy, and if that's what you want, then you picked the wrong guy, clearly. Maybe you should reconsider your marriage if a romantic comedy is what you want. You gotta stop focusing on the superficial. Did it kind of suck? Yeah, but I've had a friend who proposed to his girlfriend over pizza. They're now married for 25 years. The superficial Hollywood romantic comedy is just that, a fantasy. Don't focus on the less important matter rather than how he treats you. Hollywood has fed fantasies that poison people's minds. I'm really sorry you're upset that your boyfriend isn't the Prince Charming you want him to be, but there are so much worse things you could be upset from in life. Boo-hoo, you didn't get the engagement you wanted. You know the man you're with, and you should have known his personality. My advice to you is to stop being a spoiled brat. I'd be really happy if my boyfriend got down on one knee in the middle of a parking lot and proposed. You should be happy to be marrying someone you love and that loves you enough to want to spend the rest of their life with you. It doesn't matter how crappy they propose to you. I feel sorry for your boyfriend. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her boyfriend? Please let us know.
It sounds to me like the boyfriend had kind of had enough of hearing about this stuff, and he said, look, take this, just be happy, just stop messing with me.
Stop messing with me. My girlfriend is demanding to be removed from our apartment lease. My girlfriend and I lived together for 5 months, and it's been going good. But her grandma recently had a fall and requires care and someone to live with her because she was on the ground for hours before girlfriend's mom found her. Our apartment is one of the cheapest, and yet I can't afford it alone. My girlfriend wants me to remove her from the lease while she lives with her grandma. But I don't want to live with a roommate anymore, and I told her she should keep paying for the apartment that we signed for a year since living with her grandma is free. But she's angry that I won't remove her from the lease and find a roommate, calling me childish for not just finding someone else to live with in the meantime and letting her live with her grandma, which is an hour away. But how is it fair she can go live with her grandma rent-free while I'm stuck with a stranger I don't even know when she can continue to pay her half and just live with her grandma? I've told the landlord I'm not taking her off the lease, and she's threatened to break up with me because of it. You're the jerk. Major, and may the karma you put out be reflected back to you. She's literally going to help her grandma. She's going to be working to keep her safe, and you call that rent-free? Seriously? I've been this caregiver, and I can say it is so much work. I loved my grandma, and I don't regret helping her through the last few months of her life, but just because I didn't pay money to stay there doesn't mean that there wasn't a cost. OP is totally the jerk. Absolutely. OP, the price for your girlfriend is a lot of mental and emotional load. She needs you to be there to support her because what she's doing will be tough. She does not need you being petty or trying to manipulate her into what you want. That's harsh. I just want to point out that while her efforts to help grandma are selfless and admirable, she did sign a legal agreement, presumably. Now she's putting it on OP to fill a rent gap that he wasn't expecting. Regardless of any unexpected and tragic circumstances, it's kind of crappy to just bail on someone like that and leave them to figure it out, especially your significant other. Ouch. I'm also feeling for this dude a bit, because apparently girlfriend isn't worried about coming back to him. Like, I can't imagine, after having moved in with my wife way back when, that at any point she would have been okay separating our living arrangement entirely like this. It doesn't sound like OP has a relationship anymore either way, so at this point, he has no reason not to pursue the soon-to-be ex-girlfriend for the rent that she agreed to pay. Sorry, but at this stage, he's not the priority. Her grandmother should and does come first. But the rental agreement she signed is the priority, not him. Even if she leaves him, she will still be on the hook for her half of the rent, even if she's not there. You're the jerk. This relationship sounds doomed. It would be reasonable to expect her to cover her half of the rent until you found a roommate. But pay half for the rest of the year for a place that she doesn't live in? Just because you don't like roommates? All because her grandmother had an emergency and needs care? Yikes. Not the jerk. I remember a similar story where the roles were flipped. The boyfriend was the one who wanted to move out and asked to be taken off the lease because his father had a heart attack and needed to be cared for. His girlfriend fought him on it because she needed him to pay rent until their lease was up, and she refused to get a roommate. Every comment on that story was talking about how improper planning on his part didn't necessitate an emergency on hers. Even lawyers were commenting, telling her the steps she could take to get the money that he would owe on the rent. The hypocrisy on this site never ceases to amaze me. Well, what do you think?
Is OP the jerk for not wanting to take his girlfriend off the lease or not? Please let us know.
All I know is I think the relationship definitely sounds like it's done for.
I lied to the people I was babysitting for to get them to come home. I'm 15 years old and I babysit to make money. I took a first aid course and a babysitting course. Last weekend, one of my little sister's classmates' parents had a wedding to go to, and they asked if I would go babysit. I asked how late they would need me and if I should pack an overnight bag if they were going to be staying out all night. They said that they would be home by midnight. So I checked with my dad if that was okay because he's my ride. He doesn't want me alone in the car with people that he doesn't know. So my dad was there to pick me up at 11:50. The kids were all asleep and I was watching TV. I had texted them at 11 to double check that they would be there on time. The mom texted me back, yes. 12:30, they still aren't there. I texted again, no answer. I called my dad and he's upset. Not at me. 1 o'clock, I call them, no answer. My dad went and got a coffee at home and came back. He is all calm. Not good. He's ready to blow. I texted them every 15 minutes and no response. 2:20, I have an idea. I texted them that someone tried to break in their garage, but the alarm scared them away. They were home drunk in an Uber in 15 minutes. My dad made them pay me for my extra time before we left. He told me that I'm not allowed to babysit for them again unless I charge them for an overnight stay. Yesterday at school, I saw the mom when I was picking up my sister after school. She gave me crap for scaring her and her husband, that they had checked their security cameras and no one even tried to break in. I said, sorry, the alarm went off, so I called you. She called me a liar, which is fair, but I don't feel bad about what I did. They lied to me first. My mom says I should have just sucked it up, but my dad says that they broke our deal. I do feel kind of bad for tricking them into coming home from their party, but they could have told me that it was an overnight, or they could have texted me that they were going to be late. My dad has brought me an overnight bag before when that has happened. Edit. My mom wanted me to call the police to see if they had been in an accident, but I thought that if they were still at the wedding, that would have caused a scene. Not the jerk. The fact that the parents said yes, they would be home at 12, and then couldn't or wouldn't respond for 2 hours is BS. Where she gets off being upset with you is crazy. Please tell me they apologized when they finally got home. OP. They did not. Next time, just text them. If you're not home in the next 15 minutes, since our agreed upon time was X, I will be calling the proper authorities for what you're doing. They were neglectful parents. They are in the wrong. Their poor planning is not your problem. Lady complains about me to her boyfriend over the phone while I'm literally standing right there. I'm so upset right now. So our hotel doesn't have any vending machines. Instead, we have a marketplace that's basically a little room with drinks, snacks, and some basic medications available for guests to buy. I can either add the charges to the guest's room, or if they wanted to pay at the counter, I'd log the charges in a monthly marketplace folio that contains all market transactions from people paying at the counter. So by the end of the month, there are literally thousands of charges and transactions on that one folio. It's November, but the manager has us using the October folio until the end of this week. If someone pays with a credit card, I get a pop-up asking if I want to print a receipt of the sale. If someone pays with cash, I obviously don't get the pop-up, and trying to print a receipt will print every last transaction on the folio. Cool, we've got the background info taken care of here, now on to the story. This lady comes down and browses the marketplace for a couple minutes. She brings 2 cans of ginger ale to the desk and says she wants to pay in cash. Okay, no problem. I log the transaction and accept the payment. Here's our little dialogue. Her. I don't need my change, just a receipt. Me. I'm sorry, but I can't print you a receipt when you're paying with cash. Her. Well, someone did it just the other day, so yes, you can. Me, confused, because that definitely didn't happen unless they gave her 50 pages of transaction history. Who was here? Her. I don't know, some guy. You know what? Whatever. I don't need a receipt. Me, flustered, and wondering if I can do anything else to help her. Oh, are you sure? And she was already walking away when I saw her rolling her eyes. Apparently, she was on the phone with her boyfriend via Bluetooth, earpods, or something similar. So she stopped in front of the elevator, and as she was waiting for it to come down to the first floor, this is the conversation she had with her boyfriend, in a normal volume, not even caring that I could easily hear her side of the conversation 5 feet away from me, not even attempting to hide it. Her. Ugh,
This girl at the desk just told me she couldn't print a darn receipt. I told her that someone just did it the other day, and she asked who it was. Jerk, it doesn't matter who it was. Just give me a receipt. And then I told her to forget it, and she said, "Oh, are you sure?" As if I didn't just stand there telling her that I only wanted my receipt. I can't believe this dumb, stupid jerk.
And then she got on the elevator, still talking. Those doors closed, and I just said, "Forget you," to get it out of my system. She really acted like a total stuck-up jerk, over $2.12 in cash. Why do you need a receipt for that in the first place? And secondly, if she's going to complain about me, she could at least have the decency to do it somewhere other than 5 feet away from me. I don't know if she was looking for a reason to get upset, or if that's just her normal, sparkling personality. Either way, it was just infuriating. We should all get a few consequence-free forget yous to use per year on the worst guests. All customer service and hospitality workers should. Edit. Y'all, I'm not here to debate on whether or not there's a way to print the receipt, because I double-checked with a coworker who has been there for years when she came in for her shift. I'm a bit surprised by all the people acting like I was the one being the jerk here. Her crappy behavior was not necessary, regardless of all the things I'm hearing about legality and not knowing the system. She was rude, but you definitely need to learn your system a bit better. There's always a way to print a receipt, regardless of the PMS. You'll eventually learn it all, though. I apologize in advance for that. In the US, it's legally required to be able to provide a hard copy receipt. How the customer paid is irrelevant. Someone just doesn't want to use paper. Yeah, I'm sorry, but you, the hotel, should be able to give her a receipt for her purchase, however it's made. She shouldn't have been rude about it, but it is extremely ridiculous that you're unable to issue a receipt for her purchase. In your shoes, I'd at least warn people before making cash purchases in the future that you can't do a receipt. A lot of folks are traveling for business or have to keep track of spending for other reasons. I'd want a receipt because I don't know you and so I don't trust you. So in case you pocket the change and then charge the room anyway, I want some proof that I already paid previously. There was no reason for the customer to be such a jerk, but I probably would have side-eyed you a little for that "are you sure" comment. Like, you're the one who just said you can't do it. Makes it kind of irrelevant whether I'm sure I don't need one or not. Karen loses it because I gave my daughter a stupid name. It's not stupid, it's from my favorite anime. I, 22 female, recently gave birth to my daughter. My husband, who's 27, and I both are huge geeks. We basically met at a cosplay convention. I was cosplaying as my favorite female character from a popular anime, and she turned out to be my future husband's favorite character as well. So we decided to honor her, and the reason we met by naming our daughter after her. Please note that in Western culture, her name is a masculine one and has a slightly different spelling, so we chose to keep the original spelling. We also chose to keep the name a secret until she was born. Important detail, my sister-in-law also has a daughter, Kayleigh, spelled K-A-I-E-L-E-I-G-H. I personally think that it's hilarious and dumb to give your kid a name with spelling like that, but I've never made any comments about it as it's her business after all, and my kid's name is rare and unusually spelled as well. As I delivered my daughter and we were out of the hospital, we finally disclosed her name. Most of our relatives were okay with her name, some of them even said it's beautiful. However, my sister-in-law lost it. She said it's a stupid name, and the decision to name a kid after a fictional villain is idiotic. It was expected, as she often made snarky comments about our hobbies and interests. However, this time I lost it and I yelled at her, saying that it's our decision to name our kid and that it's better than Kayleigh. She started crying, saying that I was unreasonably rude and stormed off. My husband and my mother-in-law took my side and said that I was right and that sister-in-law overstepped the boundary. However, sister-in-law keeps harassing me, demanding an apology, and even managed to turn some of our mutual friends against me. Edit. I've been asked in the comments about my baby's name. It's Conan, after Conan from Naruto. You named a baby girl Conan? Yikes. For your daughter's sake, I hope everyone in your area knows anime and doesn't immediately jump to the Barbarian instead. I was thinking Conan the Barbarian too. Conan the Barbarian. I wish parents would think of their kids before trying to do something unique and sentimental for their own selfish reasons. A kid isn't a dog or a cat. They're a human who has to deal with the repercussions of their name. Poor kid. I wish people would realize that the kid is the one who actually has to live with the name they're given. We get it, you're a nerd. So am I, and I'm proud of it. But your kid is a person. They're not an accessory to advertise your interests. I know someone who named their kid Sirius after Sirius Black from Harry Potter, and the kid hates it because nobody in our country is named that. He refuses to go by it, and the parents are disappointed. You're the jerk for giving your kid a stupid name. She's not a toy or a character from a show. Everyone sucks here. Naming a kid Conan is probably just going to help the bullies. I can hear the variations of the name now. Naming your kid a stupid spelling of a name is just annoying. What the heck is it with people having to make their kids stand out with stupid names? You're the jerk. This is why adults who still watch stupid anime shows should not become parents. You're basically kids yourselves, trapped in adult bodies. Edit. How did I know so many of you would be triggered by this? Oh, that's right. Because most of you still watch anime yourselves. Japanese cartoons designed to make profits off of dumb kids, which is exactly what it does and what you are. Man, it's a spicy day on Reddit. Well, what do you think? Is OP the jerk for naming her daughter Conan or not? Please let us know.
Between the time when the oceans drank Atlantis and the rise of the sons of Aries, there was an age undreamed of. And unto this, Conan, destined to bear the jeweled crown of Aquilonia upon a troubled brow. It is I, his chronicler, who alone can tell thee of his saga.
Wow, Karen, you really love Conan the Barbarian, don't you?
Well, there's a reason we have his sword up on the wall in the game room, right next to the Master Sword from Zelda.
Am I the jerk for telling my wife we can adopt her nephews, but not her niece? My wife's sister was recently found guilty of dealing. She will be sentenced this week and is looking toward a long term because this is not her first time caught dealing. She has 3 kids, 2 boys who are 4 and 5 and a girl who's 14. No one on her family side wants to or in a position to take care of the kids except for me and my wife. However, I'm demanding 2 conditions. If we're going to take these kids in, I want us to adopt them. I don't want 50 people looking over our shoulders trying to tell us what to do. If we're going to be legally responsible for them, I want to be able to parent them as we see fit. The second condition is that I'm willing to take the 2 boys in, but not the girl. The 2 boys have not had any rules their whole lives and are terrors, but they're still young and can be taught right from wrong. The girl has gone past the point of no return. She's been suspended from school several times for things like fighting and smoking on school grounds. She's also stolen from us and other family members. She's dating a gang member who was arrested on a home invasion charge but was released because it was his first time and his age. This is a mess, and we've been arguing about it for an entire week. I don't want to risk our financial and personal security, but my wife argued that we can't just throw her away. At this point, we're not even sleeping in the same bed, but I'm hesitant to open our house up to the girl and her lifestyle. My wife argues that if we don't take her, she'll go into foster care. But I pointed out if we don't take any of them, they'll all go into foster care. Update. I left out a lot of info because I was in shock and I still am. We're both in our late 20s, have been married for a little over 2 years, have no kids, and I just graduated with my advanced degree last year. Last month, we were talking about maybe having kids when we're in our mid-30s and about where we want to go on our Christmas vacation. Last week, my wife came home, sat me down, and told me we're taking in these 3 kids. I know nothing about adoption laws or anything related to raising kids, much less troubled ones. I knew what was going on with her sister, and I was told my wife's parents were going to take the kids in. Apparently, they decided they're too old to take care of 3 kids. Of everyone in her family, we are the most financially secure and have a house, so when everyone backed out, she volunteered without asking me. That was the crux of our argument until I realized that it was happening with or without my agreement. That's when I told her we can take the boys in, but not the girl, which started another round of arguments. I've never raised any kids, so I know I can't deal with the baggage that the girl will bring into our lives. I can't begin to tell you all of how shocking this whole thing is. Sometimes I feel like I'm outside, watching my life spin out of control. I want to thank you for all of your insights, and especially those of you who work in the system. Your advice is extremely helpful. As a social worker, cautious, no jerks here. But you need to tread carefully because your demands may not line up with reality. 4 and 5-year-olds raised in a chaotic environment will absolutely have some behavioral problems, which you are relating to running wild. That may not be an easy fix. They will need extensive therapy. Whether you adopt them or not will not be up to you. You can ask it, but you won't be able to demand it or expect it. It will be the choice of a judge. based on how much or little the parents comply with the requirements and how long the prison term is, etc. I would expect that you will be fostering the kids for a minimum of 12 months before you're allowed to start adoption procedures, depending on where you live. And yes, the courts and social workers will be on your back during that time, and 6 months after the adoption takes place. You need to think about that as a reality before committing to these kids. Signing adoption papers as soon as they come to your home will not be an option, unless both parents agree. Clear it with a judge, lawyers, psych evils, etc. It just won't happen that way. Where I disagree with most Redditors, though, is about taking in the 14-year-old being inappropriate. If you do not feel like you can care for her, you shouldn't. But that shouldn't stop you from being a resource for the 2 kids that you're capable of protecting. I've been a long-term foster parent for kids of friends and family, and I've done short-term foster care for kids in my office, anywhere from newborn to 17. Someone her age with gang affiliation, substance use, major issues, and behavioral concerns is not something most people with good intentions are equipped for. You can't just love and therapy all of those issues away. This kid sounds like she needs a higher level of care than you're equipped for. So you aren't wrong for recognizing that, and you can't give her what she needs. She needs an experienced parent with informed skills and a ton of one-on-one attention. You aren't a jerk for having this boundary and understanding your limitations, and any social worker would tell you that. But do be prepared that taking the boys will not be as easy as you imagine, and you will not be able to demand adoption. If you take them, it will be a trial run, heavily supervised, and maybe adoption happens later. Reconsider your plans based on that knowledge and decide if you're still willing. And call your social worker. You may not be interested at all once you see what the plan will look like. Not the jerk. Lots of people writing novels on this post, but I'll keep it short and sweet. Only a fool would take those kids in to make his wife happy. You take those kids in and you can kiss your happiness goodbye. If wife fights you on this, divorce her. None of those kids are going to add to your life. This isn't some stupid Disney movie starring The Rock. This is real life, and real life sucks. The system is the only place for those kids, unless some desperate, lonely relatives are willing to throw away their lives by taking them in. Don't let these commenters' insults get you down. They are all very inexperienced in life and highly unintelligent. So, you only want the ones you feel you can mold into what you want and want to adopt them not because you think they will benefit from it, but because you want to make sure you and only you are in control of them. Never mind their mother may only serve a handful of years, and you think that gives you the right to legally take her of her rights and snatch her kids away so that you can dangle them in her face to show how great you are? Well, what do you think? Is OP a jerk or not? Please let us know. That last commenter may have been pretty blunt and opinionated, but you can't tell me this doesn't sound like the start of a movie, and it would probably be a real tearjerker too. Oh yeah, but like the dude said, real life is never like the movies. Yeah, especially when you're posting on Reddit. Am I the jerk for telling my wife no? My wife, 35 female, and I, 38 male. We'd been married for 12 years, dated for 3 before that. We have 3 kids who are 10, 7, and 5. We both work full-time in separate fields. She does some chemistry thing that I don't understand, and I'm a manager at a computer repair store my friend runs, and also a short story writer when it's slow. She's definitely the breadwinner and bill payer between the two of us, but I bring in the fun money for our family and would be completely listless if I didn't at least work part-time. We also fully own our own home because of her job. Also, my parents watch the kids for us during the week when we're working. It's been this way since our son was born, and they've been doing it less since they're all in school. But it's free childcare. They refuse to accept money unless it's reimbursement for buying food. Okay, now that all the backstory's said, here's where the problem begins. A couple of months ago, my wife started talking about a possible promotion coming up that would get her out of the lab and into a more manage the lab team position, with less dangerous hours for more pay. Ever since the first time that she mentioned it, I've been hyping her up and telling her she's a shoo-in for the promotion, especially since she's been working there since her master's internship, and now she has a PhD. Last night, she told me she was getting word today if she got it. After she left for work this morning, I called my boss up and told him I couldn't come in today, and then told my parents the kids were staying with me. We spent the day cleaning the house, drawing congratulations cards, and making a congratulations banner. We also made a couple cards that say, "Sorry and we love you," for if she didn't get it. I was working on making her favorite dinner, lobster rolls with lobster bisque. She's a fancy lady. When she got home earlier than normal. Everyone was surprised because no one is usually home at this time, and yet here everyone was. She had tears in her eyes seeing everything we were still working on, got down and hugged our 2 youngest, and said she got the promotion, cheering all around, and that's when she dropped the bomb, saying we need to get a realtor in a state that's 3 states away from us so we can relocate within the next 2 months. I was stunned and just said no, we aren't moving for this promotion. In all of her talks, she never mentioned that the promotion wasn't for the same location she's been at. All of our family is here, her parents and mine. All our friends are here, my job is here. She insisted that she's mentioned relocating before, but I swear she never did. That set a completely new argument about never listening to her and only hearing what I want to hear, and how this will make it so I can stay home with the kids and not even need a fun money job. During this, I noticed she was typing on her phone, and when I asked why she was multitasking an argument, she said she was texting my parents to get the kids so they don't have to see this. When my parents got here, they congratulated her on the promotion and asked how long until we move. She told my parents the promotion included relocation. I'm typing this on the couch in the basement because I can't face her right now. My parents knowing means she probably did say we would need to move if she got it. I don't want to move. I like my job and our house. I know this would practically set us for life, but I don't want to. I know I'm being selfish, and I know I must not be listening when she talks, but I still don't think she should accept the promotion. I still think no. Info. I've been tested for ADD as a kid, but did not get diagnosed, though I guess that would be something that can change as I age. I probably should get tested for ADHD, considering she's told me her exact job many times and it refuses to stick to my brain. It's something to do with the environmental testing, like soil, water, something like that. It's definitely not incredibly dangerous, but it involves chemicals, so there's always some danger. Info. There were many conversations in general about her possible promotion, mostly about upgrading cars and electronics. It was never really anything detailed beyond that. I don't actually know why my parents never mentioned it. I should probably ask them at some point. Our kids do have friends in school, though in these few weeks they never really talked about anything with me. It was like everyone was walking on eggshells where I was concerned. My son did say we needed a school with a good soccer team though, so he had some opinions after the argument. When my parents got the kids, she stormed up to our room and I went and hid in the basement. I was definitely being a coward, but I also wanted us both to calm down. I did feel silly asking Tumblr about this, but I've been here since 2010. I was falling back on a previous safe haven. That next conversation did not happen. The next morning, she was acting like I was perfectly fine with everything, and we weren't arguing in the first place. It was weird, but after the argument in front of our kids and venting here, I had decided that I would support my wife. If my parents knew we were moving, I was clearly in the wrong. Update. This is, of course, when things started breaking down. Buckle up, this is going to get stupid. And if you think this sounds like a bad story, try living it. Within days of the announcement, we had a realtor looking at houses for us near what will be her new office. She was planning on being the one to do a final walkthrough after we picked a house via photos, so she could multitask and get acclimated at her new job location. It was her suggestion, and I did not want to rock the boat any further. Conversations between us were only about logistics at this point. How would we handle moving? When was my last day? Where were the kids getting transferred to, etc.? It was very stilted, and anytime I would try to just talk normally, she would ignore me. The next time I had work, one of her coworkers came in with her kid's busted laptop. The screen took some kind of sports ball to the face, basically. As I was filling out the intake form, she asked me how our kids were handling the transfer. When I asked her what she meant, she clarified that she was talking about the transfer request my wife put in. To the office she said the promotion transferred her to. I told her that my wife didn't put in a transfer request, but instead was given a promotion with a transfer. She then told me my wife had that promotion since January and recently put in a transfer request that was approved. The promotion that included a hefty pay raise. When she left, I checked our bank account on my phone and saw that the same amount she's always been paid was what she was still getting. I believed the coworker must have been mistaken, but when I went home, I spoke to my wife about it. She told me her coworker was just jealous that she had been passed over for the promotion and wanted to add to the drama in our house. That seemed to break the ice a bit, and I was able to apologize to her for the misunderstanding and the argument. She told me she accepted the apology and that she assumed it was coming because of how helpful and attentive I had been. According to her, I was paying more attention than normal and she appreciated it. She must have spoken with the coworker about this at some point because when she came to pick up the laptop a few days later, she refused to speak with me past "hello" and "here's the bill" and was glaring the entire time. After that conversation, things seemed to settle. I wasn't happy about the relocation, but I didn't want our family to break apart all because I wasn't paying as much attention as I should. This new attitude was the final nail. We had started organizing things, throwing away and donating things we didn't remember even having, etc., to prepare for the move. While I was going through a closet she normally hides the kids' Christmas presents in, I found a few old laptops. She claimed that she hides everyone's presents in that closet and that I found her birthday present for me, just some things to tinker with while we settle. Not totally weird, but it was a little weird. She probably knows about as much about my work as I do about hers. I also found a few books that belonged to her mother. I figured that I could start to mend that bridge. Her parents never liked me and bring them the books. I did not tell my wife about this, but considering the level of dust on them, I'm sure she forgot they were there. Her parents live a few hours away from us, not even slightly as close as my parents, but they would still be states away after the move. I drove the entire way, no meeting halfway or anything. It was an awkward meeting, but her mom did appreciate me bringing the books to them. Apparently, she thought she had lost them. We did some stilted small talk over a late lunch, and I asked how they felt about my wife's promotion and move. They seemed a little confused, and stuff was slowly unraveled. According to her mother, she mentioned the promotion in January when she got it. She had mentioned to her dad that we were saving the extra money, just in case, because of a business venture my boss and I were planning. According to her, we were going to try opening a location in the city we were moving to, and I would be leading it. Her parents said they knew I'd had some failed investments and plans in the past, so they were honestly not hopeful that this would go well, but they were glad she was able to transfer with her promotion to the other office. Guys, I had no idea what they were talking about, investments or plans. I had done the same job since college, and I've never invested money a day in my life. I said as much, and then also told them I was going home to talk to my wife. I don't really know how they reacted. I was basically in tunnel vision. Probably shouldn't have been driving. So much ran through my head during that drive home, and I was ready to confront her about everything. I guess her parents called while I was driving back, and it tripped her up enough that she just told me everything. She was cheating on me, had been for years. Once she got the promotion in January, she set up a second bank account and had them split the check between the two. Her boyfriend in the city we were moving to had access to the new account. He already owned a house, but he used some of the money to fix it up a bit and was just waiting for us to come. I guess to sweep her off her poor feet after my business venture failed. She didn't tell me about relocating on purpose. She's been lying to her parents about me for years, and she's been lying to my parents and my kids. She also told a coworker that started this thread that I never listened to her, and the misunderstanding was just another instance. She told me she never thought so many things would come undone at once. She's still planning on moving. Me and the kids aren't. Hashtag, divorce is expensive. She was playing the long game with all that gaslighting and manipulation. Wow, disgusting human being. So it looks like OP is going to be the primary parent. He keeps the house, and his wife is the breadwinner. Hope she has fun with alimony and child support. If the relationship between her and affair partner has been going steady for years, it has a decent chance of surviving the divorce, ugly reveal, and sudden lack of money. But I also wouldn't be surprised if it all peters out in about a year due to the aforementioned issues and the fact that it isn't an affair anymore. It's just another boring old relationship.
Bruh, that ending though. I feel like I just got hit by a truck.
Oh yeah, that poor guy.
Our poor audience. I feel like we owe them an apology for making them feel how we feel right now. My heart, ouch.
Oh come on, Karen, you know you don't have a heart.
Silence, you fool.
Am I the jerk for not telling my father and stepmother about my son's birth? I'm 26, female. My father, who's 59, male, has been dating Paula, who's 38, for 4 years. I never got to know her well, as I was about to move out when we met. My sister, who's 20, still lives between our parents and likes Paula, but finds her annoying. Paula has an odd attitude towards pregnancy. It became the most obvious when my cousin announced she was expecting back in 2021. Her daughter would be the first great-grandchild. We hadn't been sure my grandma would be around for that, and after an emotional announcement in which everyone was overjoyed, Paula commented that she felt it wasn't a big deal and didn't get what the fuss was about. She kept that stance for all 9 months, but once the baby was born, Paula suddenly became a bit too interested, which my cousin was clearly very uncomfortable with. My husband, 28 male, and I announced our pregnancy earlier this year. At first, my father was over the moon, since this is his first grandchild. I believed that would last. But as I heard from my sister, Paula was just as condescending as we expected, if not more. Whenever I announce anything about my pregnancy or my baby, Paula always reacts with one of 3 phrases.
Okay, that's not a big deal.
Or,
is that all she talks about these days?
I didn't care about it at first, But after a few weeks, I started to notice my father was also losing any interest he had in my pregnancy. As the months went by, he became increasingly detached and standoffish. He started to either ignore or not pay attention to most of the updates I made on my baby. He also didn't come to our name reveal, which we did that instead of a gender reveal. It was literally just a lunch party with a game we made up, or the baby shower because, and I quote, "Paula doesn't think it's worth it." My son was born on Halloween, and I decided not to tell my father or Paula. After almost 9 months of excuses and disinterest, I didn't see any reason to. I was in the hospital for 4 days, during which only mine and my husband's closest friends and family visited us. The day before we left, I posted a picture of my son on Instagram, and that's when my father found out. He called to ask why I hadn't told him and Paula or invited them to meet my baby. I didn't lie. They didn't make any effort to get involved, both emotionally and physically, during my pregnancy, so they'd have to wait for baby news like everybody else. My father and Paula are furious, accusing me of using my son as a pawn and keeping them away out of pettiness. They're saying I'm holding the fact that they missed a few dumb parties against them. My husband and pretty much my whole family agrees with me. My sister, while mostly on my side, still thinks I should have told my father, since this is his first grandchild and he had to find out that he was born through social media. She thinks this is all Paula's fault and I should apologize to our dad. Am I the jerk? Has Paula ever been pregnant or had kids herself? Her disinterest in pregnancy details and then being super into your cousin's baby once they were born seems to me like it's her being jealous that she never went through that. OP. No, but from what I gather, she doesn't want to. Not the jerk. And furthermore, 1. Don't have any second thoughts about if what you did was right or wrong. 2. The BS he, your pops, might not have, probably didn't know, wasn't aware. It's all bull. He's a grown man who has kids of his own. He knows everything that happens during a pregnancy. 3. You get what you give. No relationship should be an excuse to treat people like crap. He gave off, "I don't care" vibes, and you just reflected it back. You shouldn't have to go out of your way. Your job is to grow a baby. Your dad's job is to grow a pair. You're doing great. Set the boundaries and stick to them. You don't owe them a relationship with your son. That needs to be earned and nurtured by him. Good luck and congratulations. Would I be the jerk if I invited my ex to my wedding? I, 24 female, am getting married to my fiancé, 24 male, and have been going over the guest list. We're planning on a bigger wedding, so whoever we want there, we invite. Before we got together, we were friends in separate romantic relationships. Mine ended decently, and I'm still friends with my ex. His did not. She was horrible to him. I see my ex like a brother/friend now, and I want to invite him to my wedding. Originally, when I brought this up, my fiancé didn't make any comment on it. He's met my friend before, and I thought he was fine with it. A couple of weeks later, I got a call from my fiancé's sister. She told me that her brother has been asking her for advice because he doesn't want my friend there, but doesn't want to come off as jealous. She said it's inappropriate that I even suggested inviting him, and said it would look like I wasn't over him. She even brought up that my friend might try and sabotage the wedding or try to win me back. I told her it wasn't any of her business, and my fiancé should have come to me about this, not her. She pushed back, saying that I wouldn't tolerate it if he invited his ex. I told her that that was different. His ex is a lying, manipulative jerk. My ex is my friend, who I've known since high school, and we didn't work out. She said, "It should go without saying, you don't bring your ex to your wedding." I'm inviting my friend. It should go without saying if my partner has an issue, he should come to me. We kept going back and forth until I told her that I will talk to my fiancé about this, and I hung up. A part of me thinks his sister is exaggerating or that my fiancé is projecting his bad breakup onto me, but he's never brought this up before. I don't know what to do or say to him. Am I being too protective of a friendship versus my partnership? It's his day just as much as mine. Would I be the jerk if I invited my ex to my wedding? How old were you and your ex when you got together and split up? How long ago did you split up? How quickly did you and your fiancé get together after you and your ex split up? Was there any overlap? No judgment if there was. Any particular reason why you and your ex broke it off? And more questions and questions and questions. I know it seems like a lot of info, but I think it's all useful for a level judgment. OP. Fair enough, I'll give a timeline. Friend and I knew each other since 9th grade and got together in 11th grade. College first year we went to the same school and I became friends with future fiancé. Shortly before college second year started, future fiancé had a big breakup. Friend and I drifted apart and broke it off a few months after that in September of 2020. Fiancé and I got together that December. Fiancé proposed last March. There was no cheating involved, but friend and I realized we weren't as close as we used to be in 2020 when we went home for break, so it was inevitable. You would not be the jerk. That being said, I don't think this is a hill worth dying on. If your fiancé eventually talks to you about the situation himself and expresses his discomfort, then I'd probably err on the side of keeping him happy, even if his insecurity doesn't necessarily come from the most mature place. OP. Honestly, if it comes down to it, my fiancé has to come first. It sucks since the friendship has lasted far longer than the relationship with friend, but at the end of the day, I love fiancé more than anyone. I know fiancé had a horrendous breakup as well, so I wonder if there is some projection since we were both newly split when we started dating. Update. Last night we sat down and I asked about the call with his sister. Fiancé admitted that he had been venting and asking her for advice. He knew she was going to bring it up to me, but didn't know she'd bring up his ex or yell over the phone. I asked why he didn't talk to me about it. Fiancé explained it was a few things. One, his ex cheated on him with a lot of friends while dating. Just texting my friend, hanging out with my friend tonight, etc. Second, he didn't realize how much it bothered him until he thought about it, and by then we already agreed on friend as a guest. Third, he's known friend for a few years now, and neither of us ever made a move. He felt he was being paranoid and didn't want to come off as controlling, especially since friend is in our friend group, and if he was the only one not invited, fiancé worried that he'd look insecure. Someone made a good point that we never established a boundary. Friend is still a friend, but I love my fiancé. I said I didn't want to cut out an entire friendship if I didn't have to, and we compromised. Since the whole friend group mainly sticks to group chats, friend can only talk to us via the group chat, in person or public socials. Fiancé offered to do the same with a different friend of his that he used to have a crush on. I didn't know about that until he said it, but I told him he didn't have to. He also asked that I double check with him when friend attends any group hangouts. For the wedding, we might ask friend to come to the reception, but not to the ceremony to avoid drama. Friend has asked in the group chat, no official invitations yet, but the whole group knows we're planning, if he can bring his girlfriend to the reception, but not the ceremony, since, his words, "Don't think my friend's big day is the best place to bring a date, but if there's a good party afterwards, I'd love for you guys to get to know her." We talked over how it all made fiancé feel, and I do feel better going forward. He apologized for not coming to me, and I apologized for making him feel like I couldn't be trusted to talk to. Not gonna lie, I'm still a little freaked out he's going to secretly hate everything I do now since he felt like he couldn't talk to me, but I'm just being paranoid idiot. Note, some noted I was too fixated on sister, and I agree. It was unexpected and I got too defensive. Fiancé didn't know she had been so aggressive, but clearly the problem is with me. Something has to be wrong with me if he'd go to her instead of me about this. It's shaken a lot of confidence that I had, but I needed the reality check. Communication is crucial for marriage. Those that pointed out their exes to friends made me feel better too. Like most, I hope to keep most of my friends in my life, but my husband has to come first. Thank you for your kindness and advice. Bro, these people are not ready for a marriage yet. How did this go from not inviting her ex to the wedding to never being able to talk to her ex outside of groups and always having to check in with her soon-to-be husband for permission to attend events the ex might be at? That's a crazy leap. I can understand not wanting your fiancé's ex at your wedding, but now they're barely allowed to maintain a friendship? Even though she's never done a single thing to warrant his concern, that would definitely not work for me. Yeah, this does not feel like a reasonable resolution to me. It requires OP to run all her interactions with her friends group by her fiancé. Nope. I'm single, so I don't know. But is there really something wrong with the fiancé going to his sister first? What if the sister had talked some sense into him and he realized he was overthinking it? For me, the problem was the sister confronting OP. It's one thing for the fiancé to talk to someone about where his head is at, another for them to preempt him and yell at OP. Never cut an ex out of your life for a new partner. Only controlling, insecure mama's boys make those types of demands. I decided a long time ago that I would never cut an ex out of my life because of some new guy that I start dating. As soon as he shows concern about me hanging out with an ex, it's a major red flag and means he doesn't trust or respect you. Why is it so hard to find guys these days who are secure enough to be okay with a girlfriend staying friends with her ex? Sometimes it feels like I'll just have to be single forever, but I'd rather be single than be with a controlling jerk who doesn't deserve me. Your comment made me laugh. I gave up on dating 8 years ago and finally moved abroad. It was a huge culture shock to me when I moved and realized that I could actually find a partner with traditional values and common sense. I've been married for 6 years now and we have 2 sons. Look, I don't know who you are, but I agree on your prediction that you'll be single forever. People like you are so obsessed with not being controlled that you push away all the good dating prospects. We have to go where we are wanted, and sadly, America is no longer it. Edit. Calling me names because of the life I chose. Yeah, real mature. And to those of you saying that I couldn't get women in America, I assure you I dated some beautiful ones. But on the inside, that's where there was no beauty to be found. Ew. Passport bros are the most pathetic of them all. Tell the truth, you couldn't pull a date here in America, probably because you're about a 2 on a good day. So you desperately went to a third world country to find some poor woman who will be with you out of desperation for your money. It's hilarious to me that you guys think any woman from another country would actually want to be with you if it wasn't for your money. Passport bros are some of the most cringe people online. My mother-in-law is demanding to be paid for babysitting our toddler. My wife, who's 39, is turning 40 in 10 days. To celebrate, we're taking a 5-day vacation, just the 2 of us. It's the first time that she and I, 38 male, have been away like this as a couple since the birth of our son, almost 4 years ago. We planned this trip months ago, and my wife asked her mom if she'd be willing to come over to our house and watch our son while we're away. Mother-in-law agreed right away. Mother-in-law is in her early 60s, but doesn't have a real job. She'll do cleaning for her brother, who owns a bunch of rental properties, and he pays her in cash. So it's not like she has a schedule she has to clear to stay with our son for a few days. Last weekend, my wife called mother-in-law to talk to her about our trip and to ask if there's anything mother-in-law will need or want us to stock in the house as far as food and necessities. During the conversation, mother-in-law said that she will need $100 per day from us. This is the first time she ever brought up wanting to be paid for watching our son. My wife was caught off guard and just kind of agreed to it. But when she got off the phone and told me about it, I got upset. I told her that mother-in-law is taking advantage of the situation because she thinks we have no other options. I told her that it's BS she sprung this on us so close to our trip, and I don't think we should pay her anything. I said that I would call my parents and see if they can watch our son instead. My wife told me that mother-in-law wouldn't ask that sort of thing unless she needs the money, and that adding $500 to our vacation trip isn't that much of a big deal. I told her that it's not about the money to me, it's about mother-in-law being sneaky and manipulative. I called my mom and asked her if they would be able to watch our son instead, and she jumped at the idea. Both my parents are recently retired, so they have plenty of free time and would love an extended grandson visit. I didn't explain the reason for the change. I just told them that things didn't work out with mother-in-law. I told my wife that my parents can watch our son instead and that she should call her mom and tell her that we no longer need her to babysit. She said that she didn't want to do that because mother-in-law was really looking forward to seeing our son. It's been over 6 months. I told her that if she was looking forward to it that much, she wouldn't be trying to swindle us out of $500. I told her if she didn't want to make the call, I would gladly do it. She reluctantly made the call herself, but it didn't go well. Mother-in-law got upset because we are now depriving her of seeing her grandson. My wife got emotional and ended up backtracking and said that she would talk to me and see if we could work something out. After the call, she asked me if there was some way we could figure this out, and I told her we aren't changing anything again this close to our trip. She said maybe we could offer mother-in-law a smaller amount, but I reiterated that it isn't about the money, it's about mother-in-law being sneaky and trying to take advantage of us. Not the jerk. If she needed and wanted to be paid, it should have been discussed up front. It's not something you bring up last minute. Not the jerk. Your parents have made a much more attractive offer. You have other options, so no. You are not in a position to have to give in. She wants to be paid to see her grandkid, no deal. Is mother-in-law broke and too proud to ask for money? You're the jerk for the way you're dictating this to your wife. You clearly expect veto power over money and other big decisions. That kind of sucks. I'm a guy, but if my wife wanted to give her mom $500 for doing absolutely nothing, I wouldn't dream of saying no. And she would say the same about me and my parents. In this case, it was actually compensation for her time providing care for your kids. Is the mother-in-law being a little manipulative with her late request? Maybe, or maybe not. Maybe she just needs the money, and rather than ask for a handout, she asked for compensation. Should you stomp all over your wife's decision because her mom made a minor request that you disagreed with? Absolutely not. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or mother-in-law? Please let us know.
If his parents will watch the kid for free, why should they pay her mom to do it? That last commenter though, some people just have no common sense.
Am I the jerk for embarrassing a lunch thief at work? I don't think I'm the jerk, but I've been getting some flack for it, so I really wanted to clear this up. So I started a new job recently. I work in a small studio and there are several others in the building. Think open plan office with sections assigned to each studio. The person I had an altercation with doesn't work for my studio, just FYI. I eat lunch around 1 p.m. and most people eat lunch at noon. I came down early to eat at noon. I made coffee, and while at the counter, I noticed my Tupperware in the sink, empty. Imagine my surprise when I turned around and saw a man I didn't even know sitting down at the table with my food on his plate. He had just stuck it in the microwave. Acting rashly since I was mad, I sat down next to him and said, "Hey, that looks good. Mind if I try it?" Then before waiting for an answer, I yanked the plate away from him and snatched his fork out of his hand. He just blinked in shock, as did everyone else as I started eating. He then, quite loudly, asked what I thought I was doing, and I replied, You know, this was actually much better when I first cooked it. It probably lost some flavor in the fridge." He caught on quickly that it was my food and he turned a little red. I then asked him where he got the gall to steal someone else's lunch and then asked them what they were doing when they took it back. He stuttered out some nonsense about not knowing it was mine, and I replied, "Well, you knew it wasn't yours, right?" He just mumbled something like an apology, and I said that's no problem. It was nice he'd warmed it up for me at least, in an admittedly annoyed tone, and then he just got up and left, and the people there just stared in silence. Two of the silent watchers, maybe his mates, I don't know, told me that I was rude to him and that there had been nicer ways to go about it. I told them to think about how they'd feel if someone ate their food before saying they should focus on their own lunch and I'll focus on mine. Well, it's been a little awkward at lunch since then, and I have the impression a few people are talking crap about me at work now. Maybe I could have been nicer, sure. I still don't think I was wrong. But tell me, Reddit, am I the jerk? Unpopular opinion, but you're the jerk. People who steal food for no reason absolutely are jerks, but you don't know this guy's living situation or financial situation. He should not have stolen your stuff, but publicly humiliating someone who may have to steal to survive? Nope, I would never do that. I would have pulled him to the side and politely let him know that it was my lunch. That way you get your lunch back. Don't humiliate him and don't look like a jerk to the rest of the office. OP. I see where you're coming from, but I don't see this as an acceptable excuse. He doesn't know my financial situation either. I've moved recently into a new apartment with a roommate and had to pay 3 times rent for the first month, deposit and first month's rent. And my low 3 months probation pay at work just barely covers rent, not considering utilities, groceries, fuel for my car, etc. I've been dipping into savings till I can get better pay and spent the first month in my place eating on the floor because we had no furniture or spare cash to get some. It's very unfair to put a stranger's financial situation ahead of mine when I cook in bulk to save money and sometimes eat the same food for lunch all week. I saw some comments saying I should go to HR, but my studio doesn't have HR, and the perp doesn't work for the same place. We do have a de facto office manager, but I don't want to take it any further since I'm still new here and on probation. I think my reaction might have been enough. Update. I finally found out from a new friend at work that yes, the lunch thief had struck before. Apparently, everyone wrote their names on their lunch to combat this, and the thief then targeted unmarked lunch or lunch items. Guess no one told me. People apparently started being petty and standoffish to the thief since, and he blames me for that. Also, according to my new friend, most were actually very pleased that the thief was finally identified and dealt with. I was assured that besides the thief in question and his cronies, no one thought I was being a jerk. However, not knowing much about me, they assumed I was a very serious or cliquey person from my reaction, which I mean is fair. I dress very professionally when most of the office dresses quite casually, which probably added to that. I've started to come down to lunch earlier to chat with some people, and the office seems to be warming up to me. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or the lunch thief? Please let us know. How on earth anyone can make excuses for a lunch thief who gets called out, I'll never know. Karen tells me I should have stayed in school, so I told her that I make more than her and her husband combined. I'm a steam fitter. I work on high-pressure pipes that move gases and liquids, and I work a lot of overtime. Because I hate working, I usually work like a madman for 7 months of the year, then I take the other 5 off. My brother is a teacher and the first person in our family to graduate from university. I've always been proud of him, and he's actually pretty awesome. He married another teacher, and they have 2 sons. His wife comes from a family of educated people. I think most of her relatives are college educated. My wife and I are expecting our first baby, and we had my parents and my brother's family over so we could announce it. I spent the day getting my smoker going early, and we set up for what I thought was going to be a nice visit and announcement. Full disclosure, My wife and I currently live in a manufactured home, a mobile home. We keep it tidy and it has city water and power. I'm not sure why, but my sister-in-law decided that before dinner was the perfect time to tell her kids that they need to stay in school if they don't want to end up like me and my wife. I saw red and I was about to let her have it, but my mom and brother told her that she was being rude and that she needed to apologize. She didn't. She doubled down and said that we were doing okay for the two of us, but what if we wanted to have kids? She just didn't want her kids to end up like us. I told my brother he needed to tell her to shut up or they needed to leave. She said that she was just thinking about our future and our kids' future. I told her that my kids would probably be okay as soon as her husband paid me back for his education that I paid for. My brother has no student loans because I paid for his education. I told her that my current house wasn't great, but that the construction across the road was our new house we were having built since my wife and I owned the quarter section of land our trailer is on. I then told her that since I make more money than her and my brother combined while only working a little over half a year, I think we'll be okay. I would not actually call in the loan to my brother. I know that they are living just within their means and do not have the money to pay me back. She got embarrassed and they left. I told my parents about the baby and we had a ton of leftovers since 4 people had left. My parents, my wife, and my brother all said that I didn't need to lose my cool with her and that she meant well. My mom said that I was wrong to point out how much money I make. I don't know. I hated myself for pointing out that my brother is poor compared to me, but I didn't start the conversation. Not the jerk. She should not denigrate what you do for a living. Your brother should have told her that he owed you money. OP. I know. I just feel bad for bringing him into a fight that he didn't want. Not the jerk. She 100% started it and had it coming. It would have been more polite for you not to, sure. But it also would have been way more polite for her not to use you as a warning tale to your face. Can't believe she did that after you paid for her husband's education. She wanted to play the higher education game and lost. I don't understand why some college-educated people feel they are superior to everybody else. Some people would fall on their backsides if they knew how much some of these jobs pay. I know a guy who teaches at university and can't afford anything. I guess your only fault was that you could have chosen the higher road, but I don't fault you for going your route. Some people need to be educated, not the jerk. Yet another post showing education does not equal intelligence. My brother makes more money than any of my siblings, and he's an electrician that started working straight out of school at 16. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or his sister-in-law? Please let us know.
That teacher honestly deserved much worse than what you gave her.
My girlfriend has a gift, and I'm terrified. Okay, this sounds insane, but I don't know anymore. I, 27 male, have known my girlfriend who's 24 for around 7 years, and she's always been a bit odd. Not in a bad way, but she's very empathetic and too kind for her own good. She also has chronic depression and anxiety and BPD. A few months into us dating, she would do this thing where she would text me to hydrate, eat, stretch, relax my muscles, the works. I didn't think much of it honestly, like those are very common things people forget to do. Then she got more specific, an example being, hey, pop your left shoulder or it'll start to hurt later tonight. Or she would buy me foods I was craving without me asking, or send me reassurance when I was feeling low. Even those, however, I was able to brush off with ease, like what nearly 30-year-old doesn't have aches and pains, you know? It was like that for months, and occasionally I'd ask her how she knew I hadn't hydrated all day, or how she knew I wanted one of my cravings, to which she would always respond with, "It's a gift. Cool, huh?" I figured she was bluffing and kept getting lucky. Now I don't think that's the case. Last week, she called off work and rushed over. I asked her why she felt the need to do that, and she said she felt compelled. An hour later, we got the news a family member I was close to had passed away. Here I have to note, she is close with my parents, but they don't talk outside of family gatherings, so there's no way she would have known prior to the call. She stayed by my side the rest of the week and confided in me that she was a different religion than I am. She's a Hellenistic pagan and I'm a Baptist, and then she got the urge to call off work when she was cleaning up our altar. I was a bit shaken up, but ultimately I was just glad she was there with me. This weekend we went to visit her dad. She suggested it because he lives outside of a tourist trap town and we could use the vacation. I agreed and it was a fantastic trip. On the ride there, she confessed she doesn't like my job because it's dangerous. It wouldn't be, and I don't think it is at any of the other shops, but we simply don't have the equipment to do what we claim we can, so we have to jerry-rig quite a bit. I explained this to her, and she just reiterated she wants me to be careful. I promised I would, and she dropped it. I've tried my best to not tell her about how sketchy it gets sometimes, or that we actually had a workplace incident recently, but the way she talked, it felt like she knew. Throughout the drive from her dad's to the town, the drive was anxiety-inducing. We're talking heavy rain, plus bad drivers, and my car was acting up. Yet my usually anxious girlfriend with car wreck trauma was unfazed. When I inquired about it at dinner, she said that she knew we wouldn't wreck. I asked her how she could possibly know that, and she said, I have a gift, and I should just trust her on this. It was hard, but I did my best. When I was dropping her off, she warned me to be on the lookout for deer and to drive safe. Two somewhat normal statements given where we live, but I didn't think it meant, hey, there's gonna be a deer in the middle of the road, so don't hit it. It was just the icing on the cake, and I still don't get this gift. The next morning, she's gushing about how much she liked our weekend and how much she loves spending time with me, how we need to do it again, blah, blah, blah. She then mentions how I need to be careful on the drive there. Lo and behold, there was a wreck on my commute. I got to witness it. At lunch, she asks if I'm okay, which I kind of had just gotten a cut on my arm. I'm a mechanic, so it's common. I asked her if she could stop being so weird and to just chill because life is being weird and I'm not feeling it. She said, okay, but how do you think I feel? I'm just stuck like this. I apologized and she agreed she would chill and told me she didn't mean to scare me, but now I'm super weirded out by her. I would change companies, to be honest. You shouldn't work someplace with crappy workplace safety. I bet she knows about this post. Hey man, it sounds like you have a good thing going. A girl who loves you, likes spending time with you, and dotes on you. That's better than any man has the right to ask for. Don't self-sabotage. Just be happy that you're with someone that worries for you. Also, consider a job change. Dangerous working conditions should be unacceptable. The money can't be worth your life. Also, if your girl is a wizard, then that's cool. Good luck, my dude. Edit to clarify. The line about better than any man has the right to ask for was poorly written. Allow me to clarify. I've been on Reddit for a while, and it's rare to see a happy relationship on here. That has significantly lowered my standards on what a good relationship is. I also phrased it from a male perspective because I'm a guy. I should have written, better than any partner has the right to ask for. Because in my opinion, this girl goes hard on the paint, more so than one should expect from just a girlfriend. Lodger refuses to leave. He's drawn up a fake rental contract saying he has a right to stay in my home for a year. I took in a lodger 4 months ago on a rolling month-to-month contract to help with the cost of living. They have begun treating me like a slave, so I put my foot down and told them they have 6 weeks to move out. He stated that this will not be happening and sent a message to the WhatsApp group of a fake contract he has made that has my signature on it. He's told me that any attempt to move him out will mean trouble for me, but he hasn't put this in writing. So far, my wife's ashes have gone missing, only for him to announce that he found the urn and it would be a shame if it got lost permanently. I really need help. He's blackmailing you and has tried to defraud you. Call the police on him and have them removed immediately. For lodgers, all you have to do is give them reasonable notice. Often, this is a minimum of 24 hours to 1 week. But if there's a threat to yours or your property's safety, you can change the locks and ask them to leave immediately. It'll be easier to do this with the police being there, obviously, so you might want to save this until they come to question your lodger about thefts and fraud. OP. Thank you. I'll file a report while I'm out walking my dog. He deliberately left some dark chocolate on a kitchen counter this afternoon and said, "Oops, maybe I wouldn't be so clumsy if I didn't have you threatening to evict me." I would be putting his stuff outside and changing the locks pronto. What an evil person. OP. I know. I was charging $350 a month, basically to cover my wife's share of the mortgage. He was fine at the start, just grew worse and worse. The heating stays at 24 Celsius. I said it stays at 24. You're out of milk. Get some on your lunch break. You need to clean the bathroom. Are you trying to avoid confrontation? Or is he a big guy or giving off dangerous vibes? Sorry to hear about your wife, but you don't deserve to be treated like that. Put your foot down. OP. He's massive, 6'6" easily, and built like a brick house. Doesn't help that I'm not so big. Call the police, explain the situation. They'll be able to tell the WhatsApp is fake and make him hand over the ashes. OP. I have the ashes. I took them and my wife's jewelry box, etc., and I gave them to a neighbor that I trust. Update. I went to the police station on the evening of my first post. I explained what was going on, that I had a lodger who was refusing to leave and pretending that he was an actual tenant. Police agreed to return with me that evening for the eviction, but I had to wait close to 4 hours at the station. Whenever the officers arrived at my house, the lodger opened the front door and spoke with the officers. He presented them with the fake contract, stating that he was renting this place, that I was the landlord, and that I was attempting an illegal eviction. At this point, the police informed me that they didn't have enough evidence to make a decision on what amounted to a civil matter. I tried to enter my property. The lodger stopped me and said I was trespassing, as a landlord legally has to give 24 hours notice if they wish to enter. The police sided with the lodger and informed me I would have to find alternative accommodation. I ended up having to stay in a dog-friendly B&B for a full week while I spoke with my homeowner's insurance and my bank. I also tried to escalate with the police, but they refused to get involved in a civil matter. Upon returning to my property after a couple of days, I discovered my keys no longer work, so it appears the lodger has changed the locks. I'm now living for free with a friend from my church while my home insurance is working with a solicitor and hopefully my bank to apply more pressure to the police to take action against the lodger. Not a happy situation at the present, I'm afraid. Update 2. Lodger has engaged in several dubious practices which makes it hard for eviction to continue. This includes providing a fake name to me originally, so eviction documents were served on him with the wrong name, getting court hearing delayed by feigning illness, taking on his own lodgers and subtenants, a woman and her daughter, and signing them up for a 1-year rental contract in my home. My insurance company and solicitor work on this matter. Not easy, not going well. Thank you to the local Chinese community and very local people as well for their support. The end is in sight, and I will soon be back in my home. Quitting my HR job with no notice. Incoming rant because I don't have many people in my life to listen. My company has 650 employees. HR is a team of myself, HR assistant, and my boss, HR director. I've worked here for 4 years and haven't received a pay raise since 2021, which was only $1 to begin with. Despite so many promises from the owners and HR director, I'm paid less than $25 an hour. My boss makes 6 figures. My boss is hardly here. I would estimate she works 25 hours per week while I regularly work 40 to 55. She also gets to work from home routinely. I was told I cannot because technically it's only for high-level executives. The misuse of power by my boss is crazy, and the owners shrug their shoulders and turn a blind eye, all because she's married to one of their sons. I'm basically doing what should be at least 3 to 4 people's worth of work every week. Long story short, I'm quite young and I only have experience, no degree. So for a while, I thought this would be the best that I could get given my lack of a degree. But I just got a much better paying offer where I will be a part of a real team and can work from home 3 times per week. I'm quitting this Friday, no notice. My boss will be doomed with year-end projects and she has a vacation to Hawaii planned in December. I don't feel any remorse after countless times of being told, "There's no way you can take those dates off, I'll need you here," and "You know the company can't budget in a pay raise right now, but give it 6 months, you'll see." Oh, and by the way, I'm the only person who knows how to use our HRIS, HR computer software. Good luck to them. No one else ever bothered to learn it because they rely on me. I guess my only point in posting this here is to let it all out and to say, employers better treat people with respect, especially those who act as the glue holding a lot together, because we can just walk out and leave the company struggling. Edit. Wow, I have quite the support on this subreddit. Thank you. To respond to a few comments of concern I'm getting. 1. I'm not worried about references. That's definitely coming from mostly older people. Trust me, you'll be fine without the input of your snotty boss. My boss doesn't provide references anyways. She's talked at length in the past about how she would never do that because people should be able to sell themselves. Well, I sold myself. She will be so proud. 2. I think a lot of people don't understand what all HR assisting is. No, I don't fire people or punish anyone. Think about the fact someone has to enter your information into the insurance websites. Someone also has to onboard new hires. That's the type of work I'm doing. Not that I should have to justify myself, but I've got a lot of DMs saying they hope my next job doesn't work out because HR doesn't deserve success. My next job isn't HR at all. With that said, yes, I understand HR directors are directly involved in protecting the interest of their company against employees. Yes, my next job is secured. I've signed the offer letter and my background check is complete. I have a start date, My next job is union as well, which is a dream for me. I was sick during lockdown for 3 weeks. I literally couldn't come into work, and let's just say HR was crumbling for that short amount of time. My first week back was full of overtime because nothing got done while I was gone. So yes, I'm confident this is going to hurt them for at least a couple of months. But really, my main point in leaving without notice is the fact that they would never do the same for me. I work for awful people. They don't even deserve the courtesy. This is wonderful. As others have mentioned, do not tell them where you're going. Don't update LinkedIn. Don't announce anything on social media. Steal my job? Fine. But if any issues come up, you are not my problem. So until recently, I worked at my university in an admin position. I loved the job. My boss, Ellie, was really happy with me, but I was temporary. And when my contract came up for renewal, my friend, B, who was also an admin assistant with a permanent contract at the uni, went to the dean and said, basically, that she could do everything I was doing as part of her already existing duties. So there was no need to renew my contract. I knew this because B told me that she had done this because she wanted to work with Ellie, despite Ellie not wanting to work with B. Ellie was just as upset about this as I was and asked the dean to reconsider. No luck. Ellie and I had started a whole bunch of projects together, which we had split the work for, but I had created the bulk of the content because Ellie had other responsibilities, and I'd handled a lot of the communication with the few dozen people we had roped into helping. The same day B took over, she sent out a bunch of emails talking about the projects Ellie and I had completed together, and in these emails, B presented it all as her own work, with input from Ellie. Ellie apologized to me for B doing that and said it was inappropriate. I still had access to all of the materials and had created about 80% of them entirely alone. So I very simply locked everything down. B messaged asking where the material was. I responded that as I am no longer employed by the uni, I no longer have access to confidential materials, and if no one but me can access it, that's B's issue to sort out. The materials contain everything from promo pieces to email templates to spreadsheets regarding annual leave. The remaining 20% of content, which both myself and B had access to, was all fairly rough, had some typos, some incorrect dates, the wrong titles in a few places, incomplete paragraphs, minor things like that, all of which were on my list to fix because only I knew about them, and all of which B overlooked and just sent out. As a result, B has signed lecturers up for events that they're not available for. She has had to remake all of my content from scratch. She has not sent out a single email that's 100% correct. She can't get into the social media I created. She can't access the shared inbox I made. She's advertised events with the wrong date, time, and content, and she's behind on everything. I know all of this because Ellie complains about it to me every time I see her, and I did admit all of this to Ellie, and she says I'm being reasonable here. And B messaged me almost daily to tell me I'm an awful person because I won't share any of my resources with her. It's the only reason I've not blocked B. The updates. I'm also getting regular emails from various departments and people who don't know B has taken over my job yet, asking why they've been put down to present a talk at uni on a day they'll be on another continent or something like that. And I've just responded that this is B's job now. But everything was fine when I left, so clearly whatever happened, B needs to fix it. B now hates me, but that's not my problem either. I'm 31, female. My husband, who's 50, asked me for a paternity test because he thinks I cheated. We've been together for almost 9 years, and during all of these years, we tried to conceive, but it was impossible even though we had tried everything. So we gave up, and 5 years ago, we decided to adopt 2 kids who are 6 and 8. Since then, we haven't done any treatment to get pregnant again, but we haven't stopped trying to conceive naturally, even though we knew it was impossible. Well, I got pregnant, and he didn't react like I thought he would after years of trying. When I found out I was pregnant, I was already in my 17th week. So since then, I have had a lot of doctor's appointments to check that everything's okay, and everything's perfect, but he was so distant that I couldn't even be happy about it. He went with me to most of my doctor's appointments, but he never showed interest in the baby. He's always quiet, and in the last 2, he didn't want to go with me. And I felt very hurt by that because he loves our kids with his life, and seeing him act this way towards our daughter, who was not even born yet, really hurt me. When I asked him what was wrong, he made excuses like he didn't want more kids because he's old, and he didn't want this baby to be bullied at school for having an old father and things like that. And at first I understood it because I know that our kids sometimes receive ridicule for that. Not because he looks old, because the truth is that he looks very young for his age. But because when our kids tell their friends that their father is 50, all of them assume that he's extremely old and on the verge of passing on. And that hurt our kids a lot. So I believed his excuses and I tried to understand his concerns. But then he continued acting strange, and from one day to the next, he asked me for a paternity test. I asked him why, and he said he didn't believe our daughter was his because he could never get anyone pregnant, not even when he was younger. And I know that's true because he always told me that he tried to conceive for years with his ex-girlfriend but was never successful. I understood his fears, so I accepted the paternity test because I really know that I never hooked up with anyone other than him, and I had nothing to hide. Well, the test came back positive, and he apologized for having doubted me, and I told him that I forgave him because it was understandable that he doubted me. But at the same time, I couldn't help but feel bad because he didn't trust me. I never gave him a reason to doubt me, and yet he believed that I deceived him, and even worse, he thought I cheated on him, that I got pregnant and made him believe the baby was his. And thinking about it hurts me a lot, and I'm afraid that this pain won't go away. These days, he's been different with everything that has to do with our daughter. He's excited. He's bought her many things and is constantly talking about her to everyone. And part of me wants to feel happy and understand him, but another part of me is still hurt. How can I overcome something of this magnitude? Edit. For those who asked, before deciding to adopt, we visited several specialists, and the last one told him that it was impossible for him to have biological kids, that if nothing worked until that moment, it's because it was impossible. And I don't care what you have to say about our age gap because I didn't ask about it. It was never a problem, and it's not a problem now either. It emotionally hurts to be doubted when you know you're loyal. I'd imagine you brave-faced it, and now you have feelings caught up to you that your husband needs to understand and validate. I hope you ask him for couples therapy. Asking for the test maybe is understandable if he just truly believed to his core he was sterile. But the way that he acted when he was struggling with his doubts hurt you deeply. The sooner y'all can hash out what this meant for each of you individually, for your relationship, and for your growing family, the better. You have a right to have ongoing feelings about what happened. If he's a good man, he'll want to honor those feelings and work through them with you, even if it takes time and therapy. 22 and 41? Yeah, there's a reason he went after you. Don't expect him to be mature for his age. She says age doesn't matter, but then his number one concern is his age. He's married to someone 19 years younger than him. Don't expect him to be rational or emotionally intelligent or mature. 22 and 41, and you thought he was going to be a catch? The age difference is glaring and worries me for you. Why are you making excuses for a man half a century old? He basically said, "I don't trust you," and you made excuses, and when he was proven wrong, he swept it under the rug with a shrug and apology. Why are you minimizing this betrayal? How would he feel if one day you told him you thought he was cheating without any reason to believe so and demanded proof that an affair didn't exist? He would be livid, wouldn't he? So why aren't you? Good point. Why aren't you upset at his jerk behavior? Who does he think he is insisting on a paternity test? I'd insist on going through his phone because I bet you'd make some interesting discoveries. Several specialists said it was impossible for him to have biological kids. She has every right to be upset and feel hurt, but take a step back and see it from his side also. No, he didn't come to her with his concern. He sulked and lied for months while being emotionally distant. If he were concerned, he would have gone to a doctor after she got pregnant and discussed his concerns. He was not told he was infertile. A 50-year-old man was told if it didn't happen now, it probably won't. His first thought was, well, my wife cheated. Unless she has some proven record of lying to him or two-timing him, why is this his first recourse and not a last-ditch effort? He even took it out on his own kid by being uninterested in her until a piece of paper confirmed it was his. That's BS and no way to treat your wife. These comments are making me crazy. If you're told it's extremely unlikely after 30 off years of trying with 2 different women that you're never going to get someone pregnant, it's entirely understandable to believe your partner cheated. That age gap? Ew. The guy's old enough to be your dad. These age gap stories are just so pathetic. Loser old guys in their 40s wanting to marry girls in their 20s. And the only reason that the 20-something-year-olds go for him is because he has money. You literally signed yourself up for this, and we need to do something about these insane age gaps that literally everyone seems to be okay with now. My boyfriend, who's 22, of 6 years, got me a birthday gift. Am I, 23 female, just ungrateful? My boyfriend had been going on for weeks about how he was so excited about what he planned for me on my birthday this year. He kept going on and on about how it was going to be so amazing and he was so excited. I genuinely love surprises, and he planned for it to be a surprise, so I was okay with him not telling me and preferred it that way. He was aware that I planned on going on a trip during my birthday though, so he changed the date to take me to this place a couple of days before I left on my trip with friends. He told me he couldn't come on the trip. I initially wanted him to. So we go to this place on Halloween. I'm in costume, by the way, and it's an action figure making place. The best way I can describe this place is it's a place where they take 3D photos of you or whoever you bring and turn it into a modeled action figure of the person. To get a toy made of yourself, basically. When we arrived, he asked for 2 to be made, one of himself and one conjoined of the both of us. The conjoined one was apparently my birthday gift, and the one of himself was for him. Here's the thing if you haven't caught on. I do not have any interest in action figures or toys. I don't like toys or action figures. But guess who does? Him. He literally collects toys and action figures. These toys were extremely expensive to make, by the way. I believe $300 to $600 for a 9-inch toy. Am I ungrateful? I'm not happy that this is my gift. It took everything in me to ask to not buy it. But something in me knew he would regardless. I don't feel like this gift was really for me, nor do I feel like it was an appropriate birthday gift. It wasn't even at least our anniversary, and he got me an expensive toy of me and him conjoined for my birthday. I have very mixed feelings, and I feel bad that it's something that I know I would never personally want for my birthday, but something he likes. Not to mention, my main concern now has been the fact that he hasn't even proposed to me yet, and he has so many excuses about the expenses of a ring, etc., but had no issue dropping $600 on an action figure toy, and bragged about how it was nothing to his pockets. I'm very aware he knows the type of stuff I actually like and care about by now. I just did not expect expensive action figures for my birthday, and I feel like I'd look like a jerk if I said anything about it. Congratulations on your Homer bowling ball. When Homer from The Simpsons bought his wife a bowling ball on her birthday, even though she hates bowling. Well, if you don't want it, I know someone who does. At first I was like, oh cool, I want to see myself as an action figure. But then yours isn't even you alone, it's combined. And his is alone? So this gift is for him then. I don't blame you at all. No, I don't think you're being ungrateful, but it does appear he thinks of himself first. You're not ungrateful, you just want a partner who cares enough to know you better. You're not being ungrateful. If you want a healthy relationship, you need to talk to him about how you're feeling. I'm referring to this gift situation, but also how he throws money around when he wants to, but uses finances as an excuse to not get engaged. You're so worried about looking like a jerk for bringing this up when he obviously wasn't worried about how his gift giving would come across. Why waste so much time considering his feelings when he clearly doesn't consider yours at all? He does things like this because you quietly accept it. He will continue to be this way until he has a reason to change. You've given him no reason to. Actually, the exact opposite. You're asking strangers how to tiptoe around a man-child. I have no advice for that because I do not do it. OP. Ouch. But I needed that, which is why I asked strangers. Thank you for the bluntness. I feel like if I confronted him beforehand, he would make me feel like I'm wrong. I didn't mention, but this has happened similarly before on my 19th birthday. I told him I wanted to go out to eat at a specific place. It was a well-known franchise, and he deliberately took me to the place he liked to eat at. And we had eaten there already 3 times before, a local cafe with a balcony. I directly approached him about how I didn't like that he took me there and how I felt like he did what he wanted on my birthday and not what I wanted. He immediately called me ungrateful and had a fit and was acting like I ruined the day. I spent my whole birthday trying to cheer him up. He even cried.
Imagine you have a podcast where you talk about important things in your life, but a coworker finds out about it and now she's trying to get you shut down. That's exactly what happens in our next story. It just popped up on your screen. Give it a tap, come have a listen. Karen and I are already waiting for you.